It's time for Shawn and Maya in the morning.
Quick pitch to Walter, looking for the record, cuts back, he's got it, he's out of it at 25 and the 26-yard line. Walter Payton becomes the National Football League all-time leading rusher. Jordan, open, Chicago with the lead. The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship. Chicago has won the Stanley Cup. Palmero over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges, throws, out! And the White Sox have won the World Series.
A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it, go to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Shawn and Maya in the morning on this hump day edition. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. What a beautiful day it is today. The shy is going to be, what, almost 80? Let's check it out. Ooh, 80 back in the shy. They said it was fall. This is fall weather? I don't know. I'll take it. I like it. I like that kind of party. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook Live, well, then I guess you found us on Facebook. Now, you're watching us on YouTube, then I guess you found us on YouTube. Now, if you want to, you can also tweet the show. You can tweet us at SM_mornings, at SM_mornings, or at SportsZone Shy. That's CHI, at SportsZone Shy. Now, if you want to follow me, just me, personally online, want to know what I did? Let me tell you what I did. Want to know what I did? Here's what I did. I made it nice and easy for you, folks. Nice and easy. One handle. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, the Snapall. All one handle at the Shawn Sierra. If you want to follow my lovely co-host, Maya Akai, you can follow her on Facebook and Twitter at the Sports Chica. If you want to follow her on Instagram because you're an IG and you do it just for the gram, you can follow her at Maya Akai. It's Maya _ Akai. It's Maya, MAYA _ AKAI. Guys, we got a great show for you, but I need you to get interactive with us today. So do me a favor, give us. I keep saying, Ivan, I keep messing it up. I keep saying give us a call because we're waiting on that new phone function, and from before. So here's what we need to do. To get you interactive with us today, I need you, if you're watching this on Facebook Live or on our app, and download the app. We are an app-centric platform. You can text us right there from the app or right on Facebook Live. All right? And Ivan, our producer, Ivan, will post it right here as long as it's not a dumb question. Because, we do have some dumb fans. Well, most of our fans are smart, but you do have some people who check it out who's a little questionable, a little sped kid, but that's another story. Anyway, hey, I want to bring him on real quick. He is our Puerto Rican Swiss Army knife. He's the man behind the curtain, the man who makes it all run. Ivan Vargas. Ivan, what's up, Papa? How are you?
Morning, Shawn. I'm all right. Good news and then really sad news.
Yeah.
Not even 24 hours, like 12 hours. You know what I mean? Like you got Billy Donovan, and then I'm gonna let you go ahead and break the rest of it because it's not. I mean, that's nothing. It's nothing short of like heartbreaking to me. You know what I mean? Like that one hurt. I was like, oh man, it hurt in a number of ways. But I'm gonna let you break it.
All right. Yeah, he's got to get back to work. Yeah, and so yeah, get interactive with us today because we want this to be a good show. We love when you guys. We already got Vernon. What's up, Papa? How are you? We'll worry. We'll get you off this White Sox bridge. Don't worry. Yeah. I know. We'll talk about it. But listen, I told you when I said I got a good show, I was not bull driving 9 o'clock in a few minutes. Man, he's ready. He's warming up. He's in the back. He's bouncing around. He's staying fresh. He's getting lathered up. He's our man. He is from the Chicago Crusader. So he's going to be on in a couple of moments. Joseph Phillips at 9:30. Jason Palmer's going to come on. Hey, Vernon. Hey, V, peep this. Jason Palmer's going to come on at 9:30 because he texted me last night after that game. He's like, after the Sox game, he's like, all right, I got to come on tomorrow. He was fired up. And so we're going to – I don't know if he's going to get you off that bridge or he's going to push you off the bridge. I don't know, but you got to make sure Jason – you want to listen to Jason. He's coming out at 9:30 for a little bit and talk about that Sox game with us. But at 10 o'clock, Russell Baxter We're going to talk a little NFL action with Russell Baxter from PFG Vibe. He is going to we're going to get a breakdown. How does Tom Terrific look after 2 weeks? How does the Bears look after 2 weeks? How do the Chiefs look after 2 weeks? There's a lot of teams that are 2-0, but there's, in my opinion, there's really nobody who's destroying it or who looks head and shoulders above the rest. And maybe it's because of no preseason game. I don't know. We'll find out. But we're going to talk to Russell Baxter at 10 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, Doug Schwab. He writes for Sports Mockery. He's a Bulls writer for Sports Mockery. And we're going to talk to him about the new coaching hire that just came out yesterday. And, we're kind of fired up about it here in Chicago. It opens up a lot of doors for some potential returns to the Bulls. Well, listen, guys, you know how we do. The first segment of every show is called Top of the Morning to you. And these are the hot topics of the night before, just some sports in general. And our Top of the Morning segment is powered by the Chicago Crusader. And with that, we want to bring in our man. He is a great friend of the program. He is our sports editor over there. He is a man who he's peeping his stilo. Yeah, he got a jacket on. He's always fashion forward. Is our man. You can find him on Twitter at ACA Joe. Let's bring him in. Joseph Phillips. Joseph, what's up, Papa?
Good morning, Papa. God bless.
Look at you. Look at you, pimping. It's the first day of fall, and you got the little jacket on and everything.
This is my Suede members only jacket passed down from my pops. So I always try to represent his style because he was a dapper brother.
I see.
From the low end on 43rd Street.
The low end? Okay.
Hey, Joseph, it's like dapper. It's dapper autumn wear.
That's right, baby.
Dapper autumn wear.
I love it. I love the fall. I'm a November baby too, so I love the fall.
Oh, okay. Your birthday's coming up, so you're getting fired up. You're pre-gaming, all right?
I just want to go to New York for my birthday. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Are you're gonna make that happen or what?
Well, my wife, I'm praying that she making it happen. That's all I can say.
All right, guys, the boss. I hear you. Hey, how you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing blessed, man. Just enjoying this wild week, of breaking news stories, man. And
oh my goodness,
I was like, man, I'm gonna have a lot of stories to write about, from everything from Deion Sanders being hired as the coach to, Gale Sayers breaking news.
Don't. Let me.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Baba.
I'm sorry. Well, let me just be quiet. Let you do that.
I just got a job to do here, baby. I got a job to do here. Well, let's get right to it since Joseph stole my thunder.
Yeah.
About the first Top of the Morning topic, it is a very sad one. This is the one that hurt Ivan, hurt him deeply. Unfortunately, according to NFL. And now all the outlets are confirming it, but NFL is the one that I got it from Ivan. Kansas Comet, Chicago Bear legend running back Gale Sayers has passed away at the age of 77. Let me say, Gale Sayers was he was an icon for people here in Chicago. He is he's a legend. Out of the University of Kansas. I'll tell you what, he was a guy that really redefined the game at the time. A lot of the moves, and I'm not saying that Barry Sanders copied his moves off of him, because Barry Sanders was too young to have seen him play, just like myself. But a lot of moves that you saw Barry Sanders doing in the 90s, Gale Sayers was doing them in the 60s. And his 6 touchdown game, 6, still the record, 6 touchdown game. You figure, he was awesome. He was a punt returner. This guy was unfreaking believable. He spent 7 seasons with the Bears from 1965 to 1971. His career was short. However, he was dynamic. He's a first-round pick back in 65. And even though he only played for that short amount of time, he was still a first ballot Hall of Famer. This guy was electric. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler, 5-time first-team All-Pro, He's the comeback player of the year in 1969. He was the rookie of the year his first year in the league in 1965. He led the NFL in rushing twice. NFL All-Decades team for the 60s. He was on the 50th anniversary all-time team, and the 70th anniversary all-time team, 100th anniversary all-time team. What does that tell you? When he's on the NFL's all-time team for 50, 75, and 100 years, that just tell you his skill set, his talent transcended generations.
That's correct. And when I think of Gale Sayers, three things come to my mind. One, the Kansas Comet.
Mm-hmm.
Two, 6 TDs versus the San Francisco 49ers. And three, one of the movies that impacted me the most, actually probably one of the first movies I cried, and that was Brian's Song, when Billy Williams portrayed him along with James Caan as Brian Piccolo. But that relationship really kind of impacted my life for just having a triple interest in the Bears, because I was like, not only they're a good football team, but they also have great human interest stories to back that up. And Gale Sayers, even though Billy D. Williams played Gale Sayers in the movie, but that story, pretty much impacted my life, because I was like, wow, that was the first time I really seen black and whites come together, and be so close on the TV screen, like his relationship with Brian Piccolo. So that was an amazing thing to see. And then also, this is amazing athletic ability was just unbelievable. Like you said, he was Barry Sanders before Barry Sanders. And he had a short career, but he did so much within that short period of time, very similar to Jim Brown.
Yeah, and you know what the great part about it was, one of the great parts about it is that he was such a humble guy. Yeah. He was such a humble guy. It was, watching him play and seeing him play and being fortunate enough to see, I shouldn't say see him play, see the highlights, and having gotten a chance to meet him later in life. I mean, it was, Chicago has had some phenomenal running backs, and he was one of the first ones. And just sit and talk with him. Like I said, a couple of times I met him. He was just a phenomenal man. Unfortunately, toward the end of his life, he was suffering from dementia. So that was an obstacle he had to deal with, and that was very difficult for him and his loved ones. But the Gale Sayers we remember is, as you talked about, the Kansas Comet. All right, the guy who literally the first guy that I saw, who could stop on a dime and leave 9 cents change. Wow. Man, I mean, there's a couple of highlights you saw. He burst right up the field and literally made a 90-degree cut and did not slow down. Okay, this guy was amazing, and he was born in an era where the medical technology was nowhere near as advanced as it is today, because he tore his ACL, and back then, the technology wasn't able to get athletes back in 8-10 months. Adrian Peterson, with little or no residual effect. Can you imagine had he been born in this era, or an era where or at least back in the early 2000s, where the ACL surgery is not just a little more common, let's put it that way, and the recovery rate was so much higher than it was back when he played. Imagine how well how long his career would have been, and the numbers that this guy would have put up.
Yeah, and I have to give a shout out to Gale Sayers also, because he was breaking ankles before breaking ankles was famous. You see what I mean? Like, he created the term breaking ankles. I mean, he's putting guys to bed with his juke moves. And even my dad growing up, like he told me, he said, man, he says, one guy I used to pattern my style after was Gale Sayers. He was just amazing to watch. He was like watching a deer run. And I'm just shocked just to hear his passing.
Yeah, it's like I said. Later in life, he was dealing with issues of dementia, and that really that was tough for fans. That was tough for his family and friends, because we saw him as this larger than life figure. This unbelievable athlete who did things on the football field that had never been done before, and people had just never seen before. They just never saw this type of athleticism, and combined with this type of speed. And just unbelievable. God, my heart goes out to, biggest condolences go out to him and his family and friends. It was it's just it was a rough morning when I heard that. Actually, it was literally right before we came on the air. And that was a kind of a tough pill to swallow, man. It just shows you that time and tide wait for no man. So,
and my wife broke the news to me, actually.
No way.
Yeah, I was actually laying down and she was like, Gale Sayers just back. I was like, what? And then I just paused for a moment of silence, and then I was just like, wow.
Wow. Well, rest in peace, rest in power to Gale Sayers. You provided millions of people with the honor of watching you play, because it was simply the honor to see a guy like him play, and he will truly be missed. So Gale Sayers has passed away at the age of 77, and again, hats off, or our deepest and sincerest condolences to his family and friends. Kind of, now we got to get back to sports. That's a little tough one. Especially, see, some people around the NFL world, it hurt them, and some people it doesn't really mean much because they may not know of Gale Sayers. But if you're in Chicago, you know of him. And I'm, I'm in Chicago. I was born in Chicago, and Chicago, but was basically when running back. You had Walter Payton, and right before him was Gale Sayers. And so seeing him and seeing his, when I first started seeing his highlights, I was like, oh my God, the ability of him, and then following with Walter, having seen Walter play in person, it meant a lot here in Chicago. So, again, our prayers go out to the family of Bears legend Gale Sayers, who passed away at the age of 77. Moving on to the next top of the morning topic, talk about a hard number to act to follow. The Cubs lose to the Pirates yesterday in the 9th inning on a walk-off homer by Stallings. However, they clinch a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And how did that happen, Joe?
In typical Cubby fashion, right? Like that was the word from Lou Piniella, a Cubby occurrence happened, last night. So while we're at home sad, at the same time we're celebrating, so it's kind of like, all right, it's bittersweet, but guess what? We haven't been in the postseason in 2 years. Congrats to David Ross making it in the first season as a rookie head coach. And he should be considered. I don't know if he would, but he should get some votes for manager of the year, because he's taking a team, that most experts felt that are pretty much saying that they were over the hump, like their windows have closed, and you can pretty much stick a fork in it, So I think he can take credit for rejuvenating some of their personalities, with the exception of Chris Bryant, who's probably been through the most throughout the all season. But other than that, like I said, I'll take the clinch. Now we can focus on the division, just like the White Sox. Focus on division, and go Cubs. Let's do it.
You said something there that I think it needs to be expounded on a little more. I really think he's a strong candidate. He should be a strong candidate for manager of the year. Part of it is this: yes, his Cubs are in first place. But the thing is, he's doing it without Chris Bryant hitting. Chris Bryant's slash line. Are you sitting down, Joseph? Chris Bryant's slash line this year is 195, 283, and 301. Yeah. 2 home runs and 5 RBIs this year.
Wow.
This is talking about your former National League MVP. Anthony Rizzo has been struggling. Wilson Contreras has been struggling. Kyle Schwarber has been struggling. Javi Baez has had a really down year. So you talk about a guy who's been able to keep his team in first place for the majority of the season. And it's a short season. It's only going to be 60 games, but you have to go back pretty early in the season for the Cubs not to have been in first place. And how is he doing it? How is he doing it? So this is one of the reasons why I think he's definitely in a strong candidate for manager of the year, and not just rookie of the year. No, he's a manager of the year because with all the big names that I mentioned not performing at the back of the trading card numbers, his ability to keep this team in first. Hats off to David Ross. Hats off to him. So,
right, it's very similar to, I guess, Joe Girardi. What was that, the 2010 season when he took the Yanks to the World Series, I believe, and they competed. He wasn't that great of a hitter as a catcher, but his personality, his IQ impacted the team so much as a Northwestern grad. And with David Ross, I think he's having that same effect, but we've yet to see the best of the Cubs yet because, like I said, everybody's performing below average. Like everybody's batting under 250. Throughout the lineup, none of our stars, with the exception of Ian Happ and Wilson Contreras, are batting over 250. So that's a problem, And now Jason Hayward, he's the money man. So, whatever he does for us, I'm happy. But Rizzo, no excuse. Chris Bryant, no excuse. Javi, no excuse. And Cal Schwarber, no excuse. We need those guys to step up at the end of the day.
Yeah, from the starters, Hayward's hitting 291. He is the most. He is the best batting average. Ian Happ's at 258. Man, Contreras 244. Rizzo 220. Baez 202. Bryant 195. Schwarber 193. With all those guys, look with those types of averages, and you still have a 3.5 game lead in the NL Central.
Right.
He's doing something right. He's doing something right, and you got to give credit where credit's due, and to have that big a lead this late in the game with all those guys that I mentioned hitting way below their career averages, not even career years, just career averages, is a testament to what to making everybody believe they are part of this team, because the people who are doing it are the Ian Happs. Those are the smaller, the not so big, the common names. Jason Hayward is finally living up to that contract that he signed some years ago, and he's living up to the expectations that they had from him. But all in all, across the board, your big stars are not performing, and everybody else, all the fringe players and the secondary players, those are becoming your primary players. And they're enjoying. It's because of them that they're 3.5 games up in the Central.
I think that stat-wise, you got to perform. But stat-wise, as far as their averages not being up to par, well, we're only playing 60 games. As far as knowing your team, yeah, okay, you get a feel of your team. But as far as players, if you play 162 games, those stats are maybe you'll even out in this back half, this middle to back half of the season. But you're only playing 60, so you're looking at it. So the optics are just magnified, tenfold, because you're like, oh wow, Chris Bryant's batting 195, but nobody knows that Chris Bryant typically has a slow start and then picks it up middle to second half of the season. You're not going to have a middle to second half of the season. You only have 60 games in a playoff. So it's like I said, it's magnified tenfold because you need those guys to hit now. That they end up averaging out. That their averages are consistent. Rizzo is going to hit 30 home runs and have 100 RBI every year. That's what he does. You know what I'm saying? That's what he does. Until he doesn't, then I'll start believing something else. But as far as them not hitting, it sucks. But it's not like they had a complete 162 where they just were not hitting anything. They were atrocious. Yeah. We're just not going to see it. You know what I mean?
All right. And Ivan, just to add, and here's the disappointing part. Most fans think they can do something about it, but they can't. You see what I mean? We, the fans, only can do so much. Players got to go out there and play. Whether the optics say, he hits this amount after 100 games or not, you still got to go out there and play. And as I say every year with Cubs, this is the new accountable Cubs. From 15 on up, there's accountability. There's no more hold the Cubs in your lap and rub them on their back and baby them Cubs, because you put this team together. Theo put this team together to win. And if you're doing anything less than winning, then there's going to be some criticism. So it's okay to give the team constructive criticism, and especially if you've been waiting for a championship for that long. You know, at the end of the day, you got to go out there and perform, whether it's 60 games or you treat the first 30 games as the first half of the season and the next 30 games as the second half of the season. You have to make that switch. You have to make that adjustment. And what I'm seeing so far, like I said, I'm seeing a lot of wasted at bats. I'm seeing a lot of guys swinging at bad pitches out of the zone. I'm seeing Javi lose his discipline at the plate. I'm seeing a lot of different things. And yes, we can blame it on COVID-19, but at the end of the day, you know, you get paid to play. You got to go out there and play. And I'm not complaining as far as our record-wise, because we're still in first place, but there's still another level in this team if we're going to win it all.
I just and I believe, and you're right. You're absolutely right. I just think that there's guys and there's teams, like let's say in particular the Marlins, that are going to outperform who they are within these 60 games. So like I said, we're going to see a playoff field that may not deserve a Phillies. They may not deserve a Marlins team in it. You know what I mean? But they're going to be in it because they're on this condensed schedule. So everybody's numbers are they're either magnified, greatly, or they're really, 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 really bad. You know what I mean?
Can I add this, Shawn? There was an interesting stat threw out by someone the other day about the batting averages of the stars of the league, because it's not just the Cubs, it's other stars too who aren't performing at par. But one of the things they mentioned is how that in the preseason they were facing a lot of like I would say 4th, 5th tier starters, I guess. And when they took that time off and came back, you know, they had to face aces immediately. So it was kind of like, you see what I mean? It put a lot of them in a different mental mindset where the hits that were coming easy in preseason or in spring training, they weren't coming in games, in big games. But like I said, the Cubs started off offensively on the right track, and then these last 3 or 4 weeks, you know, it seems like we're going back to being the old Cubs again. So hopefully, like I said, you know, us fans, we only could do so much, but hopefully the team can respond to the challenge.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out. But, you know, the good part about this is if they are – you talked about Chris Bryant. You know, first of all, he's a little injured. And that doesn't help. But if he right about now should be start the middle of the season. You're talking 60 games, the playoffs. You're starting to hit that what would be the middle of the regular season. You know, looking at 80 games. So you start hitting the 65, 70 mark. Hopefully for Cub fans, Chris and the rest of the team turns it on a little bit, and you hit that playoff with those guys on the rise. If you hit the playoffs with those guys on the rise, with Chris Bryant coming out of his funk, with Kyle Schwarber coming out of his funk, with Javi coming out of his funk, there's just too many talented players on that team. And you know, you talk about 2016 where everything, a perfect storm of good, where everything worked for the Cubs. And then a couple seasons later, everything went bad for the Cubs. If everything can line up again, it'll be Cubs, Dodgers, NLCS.
And to add to what you're saying, Shawn, actually Theo predicted, and this is what Theo said. This is prior to them winning 2016. Theo predicted that 2020 was going to be the year that they actually try to win the World Series. So hopefully he could bring that back to their mind, even though they ended up winning in 2016. But he kind of predicted that 2020 was the year that everybody should come together. And that was before we traded off Eloy Jimenez. That was before we gave up Gleyber Torres. You see what I mean? That was before we gave up Dylan Cease. What I'm saying is that opportunity is still there before that window closes, and hopefully they can respond to the challenge.
Well, we're going to see, guys. We got to take a quick break, and on the other side of the break, we have more top of the morning topics, so don't go anywhere, folks. Keep it locked right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning at SportsZone Chicago.
BoomerNaturals.com presents the Sports Flash on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. It appears the Bulls are set to get serious. They can be a real contender, says Adrian Wojnarowski. This coming after the team hired former Oklahoma City Thunder head coach Billy Donovan.
He has a roster with Zach LaVine and this young core in Chicago that I think most agree underachieved under the previous regime. And this is a team that I think can compete to be relevant again in the East. And again, Chicago is one of the landmark organizations, franchises in the league, and they should be in the conversation for big free agents. And I think the belief is, Billy Donovan, Karnisovas, that's a tandem now that ownership, the Reinsdorfs believe, can start setting them on that track again.
Boomer Naturals, your source for 3-layer protective face masks. Breathable protection for adults and kids. Save 20% with promo code SPORTS at BoomerNaturals.com. Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
This week at Macy's, it's full on fall, and we're so ready for it with the latest trends for cool and crisp weather ahead. Chic black and white styles will be your go-to. Classic plaids feel bold and put together, and so many bright hues add that extra pop to any look. Plus, you won't want to miss new arrivals from your favorite brands like Inc., Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and more. Now at Macy's. And Star Rewards members earn on every purchase except gift cards, services, and fees. More info at Macys.com/Star Rewards.
Cleanings, checkups, and cavities? Have Dr. Chang's dental practice at capacity.
Patient in room 1 is getting a root canal. The x-rays in room 2 are going to have to wait. We're down to 1 hygienist.
It's time to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR 2019. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on this Hump Day edition right here on SportsZone Chicago. And moving on, I want to have our next top of the morning topic. The White Sox lose again. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. The White Sox are on a 3-game losing streak, and you know what? Their lead in the AL Central has dwindled to a half game over the Minnesota Twins. Jose Abreu ties the game yesterday. Well, first of all, Ray Lopez, my hat's off to him. 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 run earned, 2 walks, 3 punch outs, 85 pitches. Not too bad of an outing for Ray Lopez. He gave up that just the 1 home run in the first, and that was it. And he settled down. Jose Abreu ties it. And I'll tell you what, Jose Abreu, this guy, out of his 19 homers, this is why. See, these are the numbers that people need to understand on why he is a front runner, in my opinion, for the MVP. 8 of his 19 homers have come with the Sox down a run.
Wow, that's clutch. That's very clutch.
Say that again for the people in the back who didn't hear you there, Joseph. Say it again.
That's clutch cargo. Those who don't know who that is, but that's clutch cargo. Yeah, that's very clutch. And I wrote a story this week on the Sox clinching and everything, and I had him as one of my AL MVP candidates along with Tim Anderson. They like 1 and 2 right now for me. So yeah, Jose, that man putting that ball out the park, continue to hit well for average, and he always come through in the clutch. And he put the bat on us against the Cubs. I've never seen a display of power like that since what? Let me see, who's smacking home runs out the park against us. I would have to say since like a Barry Bonds or Mark McGwire, type of player. And gotta give it to him, man. He can hit with the best of them.
I was gonna say, don't forget El Caballo, Carlos Lee had a
Carlos Lee, yeah. Oh, don't remind me of him. Mr. 45 himself. I thought we were pitching to Michael Jordan, but it wasn't. It was Carlos Lee, El Caballo.
Man. And you know what? And yesterday's game was a little weird, and we're gonna bring on our next guest because the Angel Hernandez got he didn't get a bad rap. He got exactly what he deserved. Angel Hernandez is an umpire who's far too familiar with Sox fans, or Sox fans are far too familiar with him. His erratic use of the strike zone. He's been horrible. You know, our lovely uncle Hawk Harrelson would, whenever he was doing games and Angel Hernandez was behind the plate, man, Hawk would usually go wild because his strike zone was inconsistent. It was horrible. Yesterday, horrible again. You know, there were balls that were way outside the strike zone, and there was one ball that was low and away. I forgot who was batting. It was a right-handed batter. I don't know if it was Moncada or who it was, or Lewis Robert. It was so far to the strike zone, the catcher didn't even try to snatch it back in and frame it, and he called it a strike. They talked about this after on the White Sox post-game show with Ozzie, Chuck Garfien, and Frank Thomas. And yeah, it was just unbelievable. So Angel Hernandez has a long history with the White Sox. I don't know what his deal was. I know he had an issue with MLB and suing Major League Baseball. But we're going to bring in our next guest. He's going to talk a little bit about that. He also writes for the Chicago Crusader, and you can find him on Twitter at Jay Coyden. He's one of the co-hosts of What's Up, Cuz with Lance C. Irvin. Guys, let's bring in Jason Palmer. Jason, what's up, Papa?
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good morning.
Wow, you sound all somber and everything.
Yeah, I'm usually on with you at 11, so you know how that is.
Okay, coffee ain't kicked in yet. I got you.
You know how that is. Wow.
Talk to me about Angel Hernandez, man. You know, his strike zone yesterday was just ridiculous. You know what? I can get if you're staying in the strike zone as an umpire. You know, a little low, a little high, a little inside, a little outside. I get it. That's fine. Keep it consistent so everybody knows that they have dealing with the same parameters. You just call in a bigger strike zone, and that happens all the time. And that's part of baseball. They're human. It's their own, perception. But my goodness, Jason, there are some balls that were nowhere near. 3 to 4 inches out. One of them, the one that got called a strike, it was a right-handed batter. It was over the left-handed batter's box. Yeah. It was over the chalk in the left-handed batter's box, and he called a strike. And it's
that was the slider to Luis Robert.
Unbelievable. What talk to me about this, and is there anything that can be done to deal with this? Because, and I understand if you gotta give room for human error, but man, that was just brutal.
So, Shawn, let me start by saying a couple of things here.
Oh, snap.
First of all, I was watching the game last night. Great ball game. And very inconsistent, bad umpiring by Angel Hernandez, both ways. Really, in my opinion, destroyed the tone of what was a very, very good baseball game. And I believe he got involved in the game in a very bad way and didn't let the game play out, which as a sports official, that is the last thing you want to do. You know how I am about officials and the officiating industry, being one myself. And, I texted you during the game because I said, okay, I need to say this now that I can say it. Because up until last month, people know, some people don't. I was an editor at Referee Magazine. So I could not say what I'm getting ready to say publicly here today. Angel Hernandez ass needs to be fired. Period. He is a terrible umpire. He has been terrible for a number of years. And it's unfortunate that the Major League Baseball Umpires Union is so strong that MLB does not take action against Angel. Let me go into the history of this guy. So he started umpiring in 1991. And I'm going to come back to that on why that's a problem throughout the league. He started umpiring in 1991. He worked his way up. But throughout his career, especially in the last 10 years, there's been a number of controversies surrounding this guy. And no matter how many bad, egregious mistakes he makes, they keep him on the roster. They keep giving him playoff assignments. It's almost like a police officer who is constantly in trouble and eventually he shoots someone and murders them and they still find a way to keep him on the force. That's what I see with the Major League Baseball umpires, and I don't like these guys get in these positions and they're almost like a Supreme Court justice. They get the job for life. They're the only sport that tends to do this out of the major sports. Basketball, you don't see it probably because of the physicality involved, but they try to keep younger officials. Football, we see the turnover all the time with referees and football officials. Even the hockey officials, those guys age out and retire. In baseball, you have people like Joe West, who is still working games for no other reason than he's trying to reach a record of most games ever umpired. Bottom line is, people don't pay money to see us work. Nobody gives a damn about Joe West's umpire record except Joe West. And I think with baseball, probably more than any other sport, you have these umpires who start thinking they're bigger than the game. Many of them write books after they retire. You can kind of see they're kind of setting themselves up for a future kind of life after umpiring. But they just, out of all the sports, they seem to have a very narcissistic personality. And I think a lot of that is because of the culture of the game. In the past, they were kind of allowed to just do their thing and nobody really said anything about it. I think if you watch the post-game show last night, Frank Thomas had said, during the 90s, you'd have a guy umpiring. He may have made bad calls, and if people were really complaining and getting on him, he would tell whoever was working the plate the next game, make the strike zone bigger or make the strike zone smaller just to annoy the players. I think that culture has been in baseball for decades, and unfortunately, it's too much of that nonsense that is still kind of going on. And Angel Hernandez is going to be the perfect reason why they bring in the electronic strike zone. And a lot of people may have forgotten, but they were planning on using the electronic strike zone in the major leagues, in the independent league, all this season, and experimenting with it in preseason games for Major League Baseball next year, because Rob Manfred is really trying to get this in the game probably within the next year or two. Obviously, the coronavirus has set some things back with there being no minor leagues this year, but I would not be surprised at all if there is an electronic strike zone in Major League Baseball in the next 2 years. And Angel Hernandez is making the case for it, and perhaps that is why MLB has not taken any action on his egregious behavior.
It was to the point where, and people don't realize, because if you're not a student of the game, you don't understand how bad one pitch affects an at bat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was fortunate. People give Hawk Harrelson a lot of static, and for being a homer, and he was, and he got paid to be a homer. Okay, he did. But one of the things that, if you were fortunate enough, to be a Sox fan and watch a lot of the games that he called, him and Stoney were phenomenal. You talk about educating you on the game, okay, and how important pitches are and why. Those two were phenomenal, and Hawk was great at it as well. And he talked, there's a big difference if you're with a 1-0 and 0-1, big difference, because now the pitcher's ahead versus the batter being ahead. Okay, 3-1 versus 2-2, and how big that, if it's a 2-1 pitch, and how big that pitch is, because if it's a 2-2 pitch, now the pitcher can open up his arsenal, okay, and get you to swing. Because if you don't, okay, well, I still got, there was only ball 3 and I can go. And so there's so many different things. So when umpire affects a game like that, or how many times have we seen, Joseph or Jason, where an ump calls a strike? He hasn't been calling this low strike or this outside strike. He hasn't been calling it, and the guy's got one strike on him, and the pitcher gets that call. What does that do? Well, that happens to expand the strike zone for the hitter, because now if he's going to call this, I have to be protective. So now the guy throws a curveball heading for that outside corner that was just called a strike, and it tails away, and you have to swing at it because of that. Umpires really, especially in baseball, really affect the game, and people don't see it, and it can adversely affect the game if you're inconsistent, and that's when, or if you have an ego trip or a trip, which sometimes with like Joe West and Angel Hernandez seem to have more often than not.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think they definitely affect batter by batter. I'm going to come off of Angel real quick and just go to Ricky Renteria and the White Sox. here's the thing. You know he's a bad umpire. You know that going in. My complaint against the White Sox, when you've got Angel Hernandez behind the plate, you can't be taking all them pitches, man, especially Johan Moncada. You can't be taking – you know this dude is not good. You know he's got an erratic strike zone. You need to take your pitch and swing the bat. Don't even allow him to get involved in the game. They're taking too many pitches. Angel was bad all night last night. So it wasn't like, he was great and then in the seventh inning, all of a sudden he started changing. He was bad all night. So in your second and third and bat, if you're still up there taking pitches, that's on you, dog. I'm sorry. That's on you. I'm telling you as a baseball player. Once I saw that the first time, okay, my next bat, I know, okay, he calling that. All right, I need to go up there aggressively. I need to expand my zone a little bit. And he was bad for both teams. I mean, obviously we care. Right.
He was consistently bad.
Obviously we care more, when the White Sox was bad, but he was bad all around. You go up there and you adjust. You trying to win a division title, dog. You gonna let the umpire take the game from you? No. And that's on Ricky and the players. That's a serious indictment on them. But back to Angel, let me talk about, again. So he sued Major League Baseball in 2017, claiming racial discrimination because he wasn't made a crew chief. Major League Baseball came out and said basically it had to do nothing to do with your race. You just bad. You don't know the rules. You're inconsistent, and we've gotten too many complaints about you from players and managers. So that lawsuit is actually still ongoing, and a lot of people don't know about it. It's in federal court. He originally filed it in a court district in Ohio, a federal court in Ohio, and they recently moved the case to New York City jurisdiction federal courthouse, which is a blow for him and his legal team because obviously we know MLB is based out of New York City. So that case is still kind of ongoing. He's filed this big federal lawsuit against them. Let's not forget, though, in 2018 in that playoff game at Yankee Stadium, he missed 3 calls at first base within the first 4 innings. All 3 of them had to be overturned by instant replay, and they weren't even close. He missed them that bad. Fast forward to 2019, last year in July, the Tampa Bay Boston game. There was a 15-minute delay in the game because Angel didn't know a rule when Tampa Bay pulled out a player and was technically supposed to lose their DH for the rest of the game. Boston was complaining about it. Angel didn't know the rule. He ended up getting on the headset, calling into New York during the game to try to get a rules interpretation because he didn't know the rule in the middle of the game. And this is when he was serving as an acting crew chief. So, you had that going on, and Boston ended up protesting that game. So they did lose the protest. However, it's the fact that this guy had to even call in New York to try to figure out the rules. I see we lost Shawn, right, Ivan?
Yeah. Shawn dropped out real quick. But go ahead, Jason. Continue.
Yeah. So, I mean, this guy, he didn't know the rule. He had to call New York City, Joseph, to find out, hey, what's the rule on this? And because of that, Joe Torre, who's kind of like that, he oversees the baseball umpires, they stripped him of his acting crew chief title after that particular incident in 2019. But
Jason, so and I wanted to ask a question because, like, I know Angel Hernandez well too. I mean, I'm sure everybody should. Him, Laz Diaz, Joe West, guys like that. People should know their names because the egregious calls that they make. Do they have some type of? I know that they probably do have a physical process, but do they test them eyesight? Do they test competence? Do they test rules like in a consistent basis? Yeah,
they are tested. If you remember, back in the 90s, I want to say, when the umpire unfortunately passed away on opening day in Cincinnati, the guy had a heart attack right there on the field and died. Major League Baseball's umpires were, consistently overweight. You think about Eric Gregg back in the day. A lot of these guys were just really, huge men, 300 pounds. So after that incident, MLB started, requiring them to undergo physical fitness tests every year.
I mean, so damn fat.
Right, right. You
Let's
know,
keep it real. Stop being so damn fat.
right. They did put in some of those stipulations. Joe West, you know, some of those stipulations. Now, you know, are they as stringent as, let's say, a sport like hockey, who's probably have the refs who are in the best shape, hockey and basketball referees, and soccer? Soccer referees are in fantastic
You
shape.
can't be fat in those sports because you got to move with the flow of the game.
Exactly. Exactly. So MLB has done some things. They're constantly testing on rules every year, Ivan. That's not a question. I just think the problem with Major League Baseball umpires is their union is so strong. They're strong like the post office union, like the teachers union, like the police unions in this country. And it's so hard to fire them or take any substantial discipline against them. Now, they are disciplined when they miss calls. You know, they take assignments from them. They suspend people from games, stuff like that. But the bottom line is these are guys who are making between, you know, $150,000 and $500,000 a year.
Can I add this? First, when it comes to referees and umpires, it's either you consistently bad or you consistently good.
Sure.
It's black and white. And one thing I noticed with guys like Angel Hernandez or in the NBA, Scott Foster, you know, guys that like to make deals with the mob and, you know, and fix games certain ways so that they can get paid off. At the end of the day, when it comes to that, just think about the Braves in the 90s. And this question is to Jason, okay? When it came to the Braves in the 90s and their pitcher staff, do you believe that Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, and Greg Maddux would be Hall of Famers if it wasn't for the strike zone that umpires allowed them to get during those games? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Those guys could pitch, without a doubt. Those guys could pitch. I think, you know, back in the day, the strike zone, you know, varied from umpire to umpire even more. I think in 2020, the strike zone is way more consistent than it's ever been before. And that is because, going back to what Ivan's question was, they are judged very harshly. There's a lot of video out there now. Okay, the technology has advanced to the point where they got so many cameras and they use all these different systems. They can tell what's a strike and what isn't. So, you know, you can go out there and say, okay, today I'm going to give Maddux the outside corner. Well, you can't do that in today's game.
Right.
I do think, you know, there was definitely a different strike zone, but I also think those guys were, you know, fantastic pitchers and they would have still made Hall of Famers. But, you know, I just think that now, you know, people are demanding more, not just of the athletes and the coaches, but of the officiating. We're under the gun more now than ever before, and we need to perform. And if you can't perform anymore, then you need to move on. And Shawn, my problem with Major League Baseball, again, is that these guys get up there and they're like Supreme Court justices. They have a job for life. They need to retire these guys out and get fresh blood in there. To try to get a job on a Major League Baseball crew, I'm telling you, it's like pulling teeth. Guys are toiling in the minors 10, 15 years waiting for a slot to open up. It shouldn't be like that, man. You shouldn't have the same umpire who, you know, umpired a game 30 years ago still doing games.
And Jason, it's like you said, that narcissism. And,
yeah.
it angers me because you see it time to time. Like if you have a legit gripe, you know, a completely blown call, you should be able to take that contest right there and then. You should be able to be like, look, you got, like, there needs to be more flexibility on challenging calls because like you said, one pitch, you know, you said earlier, one pitch changes the course of an at-bat. One at-bat changes the course of a game. So what does one blown call do for a team? What does one bad pitch do for a player that's been struggling? You know what I'm saying? What is that? It essentially affects the players. It affects the flow of the game, and then it also affects the player as well. So the umpire isn't only just affecting just this moment; he's affecting the entire, you know, spectrum of the baseball game.
Well, and you know, and to add to that, you know, again, you have to look at the credibility of Angel. Let me say this, and I'm going to say some stuff that I learned working when I worked previously. Angel is not even liked amongst other umpires. Okay, he's not liked amongst other umpires within MLB. Now they're not going to come out and say that, but it's true, and you can tell, and it's because he makes them look bad. But my problem with them is, you know, again, this is kind of like what we're dealing with law enforcement in this country. You know, a cop is a bad cop turn him in, get him off the force. They know Angel Hernandez is a bad umpire. Get rid of him. It's too important to the game. You know, my job as an umpire, I'm a guardian of the game. I take that very seriously. It doesn't matter if I'm working a college match or a high school match or a club volleyball match. I'm a guardian of the sport. You know, I'm the person that makes sure that this thing is not being bastardized, that people are following rules, and there's a level of integrity to it. Am I going to miss calls? Absolutely. But if I know I am consistently bad like this, I'm not even going up on the stand to referee, Joe. I'm not going up there, hey, you know what? I can't do this no more, or this is past my level. I'm going to step away. I don't see that happening with them. And the thing about Angel, too, you know, and I got to let people know, as they were doing that investigation into what happened last year in the Boston series, they were doing it over the phone. MLB has accused Angel Hernandez of eavesdropping on the phone call when they were talking to another member of his crew to try to get his version of what was happening. You know, he was supposed to drop off the call. Angel kept listening. He came out and said, oh, I didn't know you all were done with me. And they're like, BS. You know, so this guy's got a history. And, you know, probably one of the most egregious things he did back when Homer Bailey pitched his no-hitter back in 2012, Angel went and asked Homer Bailey to autograph 11 baseballs for Angel and members of his crew. So, again, this speaks to his narcissism. Right. You know, this speaks to a guy who he's not doing this for the good of the game. He's doing this for himself. And I have a problem with that as an official. Mm-hmm. I have a problem with that as a fan of the sport. Right. And Major League Baseball needs to really address Angel Hernandez because he is threatening the integrity of the sport, because all fans around the league, when you see he's working your game, go, oh, my God. And I knew it was going to be bad last night when I watched the game and Twitter blew up and Angel was trending again on Twitter.
Hey Jason, he sounds like, and I'm just going to put it out there, it sounds like the fix is in, brother. You know, like he's getting paid. He's on someone's payroll, man.
He's not. It's not the fix is in, Joe. He's so powerful.
Yeah, he's so powerful, but it's the world is Angel Hernandez centric, according to him. The world revolves around him. You know what? It's very similar to the God complex that people, the doctors have. That because I am, because this is what I do. You know, I save lives, so I'm more important. And him, I call games. I'm one of the most important people in here. When really, you know, the less that you know of the name of an official, the better.
There you go.
When you know Joe West, you know Angel Hernandez, you know Lance Diaz, you know these guys, you know by name, then there's a problem, because when no one says that was a great call, greatly official game yesterday, all right? And the best way you can say it's a greatly official game is to not mention the refs or officials at all. And there's far too many times where his name has been brought up. Well, listen, guys, we got to go, but real quick, I want to bring her on. She's back, baby. You know, it's Wednesday, and she's coming from where Galapagos Islands or Dominican Republic, somewhere. That's my girl.
No.
The one and only, the incomparable. With her hair all, she got her hair did.
Wet. That's
you got the wet look. Maya Kai. What up, Maya?
I'm in Vegas, so yes, I am someplace warmer.
Vegas.
Technically, I'm someplace warmer. I do want to say though, I do know Ed Hockley's name, and it's got nothing to do with bad officiating, by the way.
I agree.
So just let you know,
Guns, how you doing?
Exactly. That year of the tight pants, I was like, "Hi, Ed. Wow, you've been working out, Ed. I see."
How you doing?
Yeah, you know what though? That was a bad game last night. Just this last week has just not been good. It's not the way you want to end the season. Let's just put it this way. Just everybody looks crap. I don't know if they're just kind of tired, sluggish, but yeah, and that didn't help. And it was not necessary. But unfortunately, I think he has MLB over a barrel. They can't get rid of him. He's not going anywhere. So
yeah, it was unfortunate. It's always unfortunate when he's behind the plate or on the crew or his crew's on there, because you know what? You just wait. You're waiting for something to happen. You're literally, as a fan, and you see it's his crew. You're like, son of a biscuit. All right, what call is he gonna blow? What is his strike if he's behind the plate? How wide is the strike zone gonna be? How small is the strike zone gonna be? And it's, you know what? And I was telling Jason, if you're say you give the bottom of the you extend the bottom of the strike zone, okay, make it consistent. But these pitches, the one to Lewis Robert, that was over the chalk line for the left-handed batter, and he called a strike. I mean, Lou Bob's like, look, I'm struggling already, dude. How the hell am I supposed to hit that?
He looked at him like, he did.
My bat over there?
Right. And that was ridiculous. I'm like, come on, man. But like you said, on any given night, you don't know what he's going to do. So, and that's unfortunate. So.
And they got his crew for the Cubs series this weekend, and Angel will be behind the plate, I believe, on the second game on Saturday. So, again, that's why I said what I said earlier. The White Sox got to know that going in, and they know who's going to be working where. He's going to be behind the plate on Saturday's game.
Right.
Make your adjustments. Go up there and swing him, man. Don't allow him to be part of the game, and don't allow this to carry over.
Exactly.
You got to keep moving, man. You're trying to win a ship. And, while I understand why Tim got kicked out of the game for saying stuff, Tim can't get kicked out of the game in that situation either. Let Ricky get kicked out. We need you on the field.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah, that's a great call. There you go, Mike. There you go, Mike.
I just want to show everybody took notice of that, though. It wasn't just me. It was like, Ed, you've been working out? I mean, it was obvious. I mean, his shirt was tight. His pants were tight.
You were in a medium there, Ed?
Right. You couldn't help but notice it.
And he was more emphatic on first down.
Yes. Oh, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, we got to take a break. But, hey, Jason, thanks for hopping on. Joseph, thanks. Bye-bye. We will see you on Friday. Guys, thanks for hopping on. And we got to take a break. And on the other side of the break, we're going to talk to Russell Baxter. Talk a little NFL, see his perspective on the Bears, his perspective on the NFL with all this no preseason game, no nothing. How does the media, how do they see the NFL and the quality of play coming up? So don't go anywhere. Russell Baxter coming up next right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
BoomerNaturals.com presents the Sports Flash on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. It appears the Bulls are set to get serious. They could be a real contender, says Adrian Wojnarowski. This coming after the team hired former Oklahoma City Thunder head coach Billy Donovan.
He has a roster with Zach LaVine and this young core in Chicago that I think most agree underachieved under the previous regime. And this is a team that I think can compete to be relevant again in the East. And again, Chicago is one of the landmark organizations, franchises in the league, and they should be in the conversation for big free agents. And I think the belief is, Billy Donovan, Karnisovas, that's a tandem now that ownership, the Reinsdorfs believe, can start setting them on that track again.
Boomer Naturals, your source for 3-layer protective face masks. Breathable protection for adults and kids. Save 20% with promo code SPORTS at BoomerNaturals.com. Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
This week at Macy's, it's full on fall, and we're so ready for it with the latest trends for cool and crisp weather ahead. Chic black and white styles will be your go-to. Classic plaids feel bold and put together, and so many bright hues add that extra pop to any look. Plus, you won't want to miss new arrivals from your favorite brands like Inc., Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and more. Now at Macy's. And Star Rewards members earn on every purchase except gift cards, services, and fees. More info at Macys.com/Star Rewards.
Cleanings, checkups, and cavities? Have Dr. Chang's dental practice at capacity.
Patient in room 1 is getting a root canal. The x-rays in room 2 are going to have to wait. We're down to 1 hygienist.
It's time to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR 2019. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. Maya, what's up, girl? How you been? Hanging out there in Sin City. Woo, Charlie.
The struggle is real. The struggle's real right now. I'm 2 hours behind all this. So I'm like, yeah, I had to set the alarm to make sure I didn't miss this. You know that, right? Because everything is off for me and being here. But yes, no, great weather. It's interesting. Being here, with the Raiders, just kind of seeing how they've embraced this. They're so ready for pro teams. You would think the Raiders were a homegrown team the way people act around here. It's interesting.
Yeah, there was tons of fanfare. Watching the Monday night game the other day, and you said you got a chance to tour the stadium.
Mm-hmm. It's nice stuff. It's nice. I look at all these stadiums, like you see, obviously, what the Rams got. You see this, and I'm like, let's think about this. Maybe what the Bears need is a new stadium to play better football. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe Soldier Field has just kind of worn them out a bit. Maybe it's time for a fresh look, like everybody else. I don't know.
And that would be the question. Like, where would you put it? Because, like, I wouldn't even mind knocking Soldier Field down. I know that's a whole other story, dealing with landmarks and all this other stuff. Right. But you get a state of the art facility. Come on, man. Now with an retractable dome. Come on. Now we can host Super Bowls. Come on. You know what I mean? It's not like Chicago doesn't have the infrastructure to hold. It's not like we have do we have world-class restaurants? Oh yeah, we do. Do we have theater district? Yeah, we do. Do we have a hotel? Yeah, we do. Yeah. So
you know what? Since that's the only way we're going to see a Super Bowl in Chicago, they need to build a new stadium so we can host one. That's about as close as we're ever going to get to that at the rate we're going. So yeah.
Don't you blaspheme there, woman. Don't you blaspheme.
Well, I'll tell you what. Everybody, I'll tell you what the general consensus, I've been talking sports like everywhere that I go, obviously.
I can't imagine that one.
I don't know how that happens. There's not a single believer in every conversation. Though the Bears are 2-0, they're like, well, I know they're 2-0, but they're really not a 2-0 team. Nobody's a taker. Nobody believes that they're that good, period. By the way, nobody thinks that Mitch should be starting. And these are like non-Chicago people. That's what the interesting to talk to other people and who look at it from the outside. Like, they're like, if you want to win your best case scenario, like, why are you still sticking with this? And then, of course, we get I can't believe that you could have had Watson or Mahomes. It's interesting. Yeah. So that's a general consensus, it seems like, from people who aren't from Chicago, how ridiculously stupid we were for that. But okay. But we know that.
Hey, well, we're going to bring in our next guest, and we're going to get a national perspective on it. Man, this guy he's an NFL historian. He's been everywhere from ESPN, FanSided. Now he does his own thing with PFG Vibe. You can find him on Twitter at Bax Football Guru. Guys, just welcome back to Shawn and Maya, Russell Baxter. Russell, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Well, hello, Maya and Shawn. How you been? Been a long time. Shawn, you were in Chicago. Maya, where are you?
I'm in Las Vegas.
Vegas, but you know what they say. What happens in Vegas
stays in Vegas. Yes.
No. What happens in Vegas is usually a lot of fun. So
I can confirm that would be true. Yes, even in the midst of COVID.
I don't think I put down too many shekels, but I played my share of golf there. Does donating golf balls to the city of Las Vegas is that tax deductible?
You know what?
I got a good tax guy. Well, I can ask him that question and get back to you.
Okay,
because those things aren't cheap.
No. There's some great courses out in Las Vegas.
Yes,
and more significantly than anything else, there's at least one In-N-Out burger.
Yes, there is. Yes. I drove by it. I was like, oh, because everyone raves about it, and I've never been there. So I was like, that's on my list of places to go, just so I can see if it's as good as everybody says it is. So.
And
okay,
have you made it there yet?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Not yet. But I'm gonna make it there so I can.
Simple menu. Okay, the burgers are phenomenal, but there's another place called Five Guys. You guys are familiar with Five Guys, right?
Yeah. We have
Five Guys fries.
Yeah, those Five Guys fries, those are deadly. Those are deadly. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. There's a secret. As Russell was saying, you got to ask for the secret menu at In-N-Out Burger. There's a secret menu that you got to ask for. Yeah.
What's
like knock on the door 3 times or something, or
no? There's certain things. When I was out there a couple of years ago, my cousin Stefan, who lives in LA, was saying, "Oh no, you got to ask for the secret menu, because there's certain things, there's certain ways that they'll make stuff for you. So just make sure you."
No, I better not ask for this, Shawn, and they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, hey, do you have the secret menu?
They might say, do you know the secret knock, the secret handshake?
They'll be like, did she escape from someplace? What is she talking about? Yeah.
They might have you tabbed as crazy anyway, Maya.
Well, this could be true. Yes, you're right about that. Russell, this is a first, because normally we just talk to you, but now we actually get to see and talk to you.
The man,
I'll be back. I mean,
of course.
Okay, just to make sure.
Yes.
This is what I look like. So
okay, so how did you keep yourself busy before football started? I mean, were you concerned the season wasn't going to go, obviously, with COVID-19?
My first concern over the season maybe being delayed or not happening was when they canceled the Pro Football Hall of Fame game. and then decide to eventually cancel the preseason. But I got to tell you, the NFL has really struck gold this year despite these awful circumstances. And really, for lack of a better word, almost lucky. They were able to have the combine in February before the pandemic really happened. They did the draft effortlessly, virtual. And obviously, it wasn't very successful because only 55 million people watched it over a 3-day span. Free agency without a hitch. The only thing affected was the preseason. Mm-hmm. And 2 weeks into the season, the product looks pretty damn good.
The product looks pretty good, Russell, but there's a lot of people who are going down, and people are asking, and give me your thoughts, is the lack of preseason games really affecting the health? Okay, because there's one thing to run around in at a facility, at your home facility with no contact, with the energy, without the game speed and practice speed are two different things, and that needs to get adjusted to. Your thoughts on people on the thought that lack of preseason games is causing, because there were 7 ACLs that torn this past weekend. Your thoughts to the lack of preseason affecting the health of some of these players?
Well, I see I'm a little confused because I thought it was these meaningless preseason games where guys got hurt. Wasn't that? I mean, isn't that what we've heard for years and years and years? They don't mean anything because guys get hurt during these games. The bottom line is guys get hurt in this sport off season, preseason, and during the season. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles, who lost 2 offensive linemen before anything really started, Andre Dillard and Brandon Brooks. So I think it's the nature of the beast, be it workouts, be it OTAs, be it anything. You never know when this is going to happen. Now, what happened at MetLife Stadium with the San Francisco 49ers, and I think the week before happened with one of the offensive linemen of the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's something to be a little concerned with because a number of those injuries have occurred in the same place. So is there an issue with the field? Is there an issue with turf? But like I said, it's a little confusing. Either you want the preseason or you don't want the preseason, but guys are going to get hurt regardless of the circumstances.
I think we do need a preseason, but I do think you might have to cut it down a little bit because you do. There is a big difference when you're.
Yeah, to me is a totally different subject. I have always been a proponent, as this has evolved. I go back to the days, not to leather helmets, Maya. Don't think that. Okay. It used to be 14 regular season games and 6 preseason games. Okay, and if you were the defending Super Bowl champion, you played a 7th preseason game against the college all-stars, in which they finally discontinued that game. And that game used to take place at Soldier Field. Oh, okay. The Pittsburgh Steelers were playing the college all-stars, and in the third quarter in 1976, when I was like 40 years old, there was a torrential rainstorm. The rest of the game was canceled, and it never came back. So think about that. Think about playing 21 games even before the postseason, and 1/3 of them not counting, which is what happened there for a little while. Okay, Shawn, I'm with you. I think there needs to be preseason. I also think there needs to be an 18-game schedule, and I think you need to have those 2 preseason games where it's a little more active than we have seen in the preseason. Here's the thing that's always bothered me about the preseason. First preseason. Now I'm only going to go for the teams that play 4 games, except for the guys who play in the Hall of Fame game, which would be 5. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. First preseason game for a team: starters, 1 series. Second preseason game, maybe a quarter for the starters. Third preseason game, the quote-unquote dress rehearsal. Half, maybe dipped into the third. Fourth preseason game, which was all on a Thursday, they shut everybody down. So I don't know how you build momentum for the season getting ready for that. And that's why you've seen the last couple of years some teams not even playing their regulars in the third preseason game. So I'm with you, Shawn. Give me 2 preseason games and build a little momentum going into the season, okay? It stays a 20-game block, which is what you really want, a 20-game block, okay? the 2 preseason games build a little momentum. They're taken a little more seriously than have been in past years. And I think you have a better product. September has become very hard to figure out, okay? Because if you really think about it, the preseason is really training camp. The first 4 games of the regular season has become the preseason. And then all of a sudden in October, you maybe can figure out who's good and who's not so good.
Yeah, guys, we're talking with Russell Baxter from PFG Vibe, talking a little talking Bears and NFL action right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. Yeah, I agree with you, Russell, because everything got pushed into the season. So, then one of the things that I mentioned was I want preseason games and they're necessary because that intensity is not there. Who was it? Was it Jerry Jones who once said, if we're having scrimmages against another team, which is very popular nowadays, if someone goes down, it goes, there's a 50% chance it's not my guy. But if someone goes down in my practice, there's a 100% chance it's one of my guys. And so, with this, I would like to see, because the intensity is not there when you're practicing against your guys, because you understand, I'm not trying to hurt him, he's not trying to hurt me. But when you're either having those cross conference practices or in games, that intensity is amped up big time, which gets your body ready, because especially running backs, when you have to cut and you're doing a whole bunch of different things, those ACLs and those knees, they're not used to that type of force it's required in a regular NFL game. And that's why I want the timing.
Couldn't agree more. And listen, I don't have to tell you this, because of the way the rules are in terms of training camp now, and the degree of contact that you don't have that you used to have. I think that's also why it takes some offensive lines some time to get their act together. Okay, that lack of physical football. Listen, this is a physical game. You can't avoid it. So it's like, when I was younger, I used to always look at the baseball standings in the newspaper. Okay, and it always used to strike me some of the great pitchers, or even pitchers of that era, Maya, who had win-loss records of like 24-19.
Right.
Okay. 24-20.
Yes.
30-10. Okay. How often do you see pitchers start that many games? You just don't see it anymore.
Right.
And it's all bullpen and it's all this and so on. And I think because of the way baseball has changed, that lack of throwing, that lack of being used to going that long has caught up with them. And it's the same thing in other sports. When you decrease something's going to suffer. And I think I want football to be safer. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But there's a certain aspect of the game that needs to be physical. And because it's not stressed anymore, especially in training camp where they limit contacted and padded practices, it kind of hurts that. So you spend September kind of scratching your head at who's good and who's not so good. We have 11 teams that are 2-0. How many of them are really that good? By the way, that's the biggest number since 2008.
Is it really? Okay.
2008. And by the way, all 11 of those teams that started 2-0 did not make the playoffs.
Really? Well, I mean,
in fact, there were also 11 0-2 teams that year, Maya, and 3 of those teams did make the playoffs.
Okay. Well, okay, Shawn, you just missed a fun fact on this one. So you said there's 11 teams that are 2-0, and he said that hadn't happened since 2008. He goes, but interesting enough, those teams that started 2-0 didn't even make the playoffs.
Not all 11 didn't.
Not all 11 didn't. That's
well, we know those numbers that you hear for the playoffs about 2-0 and 0-2 that we've heard since 1990. They kind of go through by the wayside this year, as you know, because we're up to 14 teams in the playoffs instead of 12. So.
Oh yeah, so it skews the numbers. Yeah, but also again, we don't know who's who. We don't know who's who.
We don't. Fortunately for September, we only have September football for 3 weeks this year instead of 4 weeks. And I don't know if they did this because of what was going on in the country. And I know it's happened recently anyway. We don't have any off weeks until week 5. So everybody's going to play 4 games right from the get-go. I thought it was very clever what the NFL did the first 2 weeks. No one played 2 straight games at home, and no one played 2 straight games on the road.
Yeah, that was kind of, I didn't even notice that, but that is something different than how it normally would be. What's your thoughts? I mean, I think everything about this year is going to be 2020 was this because of COVID. To me, there seems like a little over scrutiny. Like we talk about, for instance, Drew Brees. And I'm like, I think the conversation is totally elevated about, is he getting too old? Is he not good enough? I'm like, I think everybody's a bit out of sorts, so to speak. But I think the Saints will be perfectly fine. What's your thoughts about the conversation with Drew Brees?
Well, it's a lot of this stuff. I have a saying I kind of throw it out there. Remember something with knee-jerk reactions, okay? The word jerk is involved, okay? So I am always stunned at what even people in our profession, okay, who want to write somebody off after this, want to put someone in the Hall of Fame after that. It's a week-to-week sport. I get it, and I understand how the media beast works sometimes and so on. But do you think maybe, just maybe, give a little credit to John Gruden and the Las Vegas Raiders for beating one of the better teams in the league? A lot went wrong for the Raiders last year after they were 6-4. They fell apart down the stretch. They were 1-5. Their offense kind of went belly up. All I heard this offseason was, the Derek Carr, John Gruden thing. What's Derek Carr this? What's Derek Carr that? Well, I haven't heard anybody mention that the Raiders have put up 34 points on the board in 2 straight games. Mm-hmm. So give credit where credit's due. There's such a mindset now with fans and to a degree the media of not focusing on the team that won, but what's wrong with the team that lost. Saints have had a pretty good record the last 3+ years. Mm-hmm. I didn't look at that game as a detriment to Drew Brees. First off, he didn't have Michael Thomas, so it was the first game. He had to adjust without him. But more importantly, I look at what the Raiders did to a pretty respectable New Orleans defense. Malcolm Jenkins struggled the other night. He had a rough game against them. They couldn't cover Darren Waller to save their lives. Mm-hmm. And Derek Carr, by the way, for all the criticism, he's had his 2 best completion percentage years the last 2 years under John Gruden. So, going into the year, I thought the AFC West had a chance to maybe be the best division in all of football. Denver's had some bad luck. They lost Von Miller during the preseason. They lost Cortland Sutton the other day. Drew Lock's now going to be out for roughly a month. I'll be curious to see what we get from the Chargers and exactly who is going to be the quarterback going forward. And Kansas City speaks for itself. They didn't even play all that well. And in fact, they didn't play that well during the Super Bowl and still won it. I guess they must have something in their game plan where Andy Reid says to them, listen, guys, can you get as far behind as humanly possible, and then we'll win the game. I mean, they've won 11 straight games now, going back to last year. By the way, what a clash on Monday night. One team that's won 11 straight games and one team that's won 14 straight regular season games, Baltimore and Kansas City.
Yeah, that was, and not to mention that in addition to the two new young guns, the 2 new faces of the NFL. I thought that was just awesome marketing and schedule design by the NFL.
Well, I don't have to tell you guys, they've had 2 Donnybrook games. You go back to the overtime when the Kansas City knocked them off when Patrick Mahomes had his MVP year. Both of those games in Kansas City, both high-scoring games. This one's in Baltimore. Gee, you think it's a nice prime time? Green Bay, New Orleans, Sunday night. Kansas City, Baltimore, Monday night. Okay? How many people are calling out sick on Monday night?
And Tuesday morning.
Right.
Yes.
Let's get back to our hometown Bear. This because we're one of the 2-0 teams. Yep. And our guy MVP Money Mitch had 3 horrible quarters and comes out with a great quarter in week 1. Okay. And I'm like, okay, good. Do me a favor. Give me 2 good quarters. I'm not asking for great like he did in the 4th quarter, but just give me 2 good quarters in week 2. So he does, but they're both in the first half. And second half, he decides to, So I'm asking him this week, okay, Mitch, since we're doing this thing, give me 3 quarters. Okay, just give me 3 quarters because that'll guarantee 1 quarter in the second half that he's going to be good. Give me your thoughts on MVP Money Mitch, because in the quarterback that he in the quarter that he looked awesome in the first game, in the fourth quarter he looked phenomenal. He looked like, okay, he's definitely a first round pick. In the other 3 quarters, he looked like a guy that just got out of semi-pro.
Well, I'm going to use your logic for a second, Shawn. So this is week 3, so you're expecting good 3 quarters, correct?
That's what I'm asking for. That's what I'm asking.
So let's fast forward to week 5. Does that mean the Bears win in overtime?
Yes.
So he would have to play 5 good quarters.
Yes.
Okay. This has been the MO of the Bears for a while. Last year, watching them in the first half of games, the most exciting thing for them was trying to get to positive yardage. Okay? I remember distinctly the game at Philadelphia, where you're watching them just not be able. They had more success walking out of the tunnel than they did moving the ball in the first half of that game. The problem with the Bears so far the last year plus has not been able. They've not been able to play 4 consistent quarters of football, and I think that goes for the whole team. To be honest with you, I remember the game in London last year. They were down big to the Raiders. They took the lead. Looked like they were taking control of the game. I believe the Raiders went 90-something yards down the field on their defense. So give me a complete game by the Chicago Bears, okay? And, that was – and listen, it was kind of a tale of 2 seasons last year, where they kind of woke up last year but woke up far too late. So listen, it's been a topsy-turvy division. You got the 2-2-0s and you got the 2-0-2s. And fortunately for the Bears, they're in the 2-0 column. But, I think it's more than just Mitch, okay? But his inconsistency is kind of the hallmark of the entire team. After a year with Matt Nagy in 2018 where he made strides, okay? He's almost like he's flatlined in terms of progress right now, okay? And that is a little troublesome, especially because he will spend not only the rest of his career, but the rest of his life being compared to 2 other quarterbacks who were drafted in the first round after him. Yep. Even after he's done playing. Hey, aren't you Mitch Trubisky? Weren't you drafted ahead of and of? Oh, okay. All right. Unfortunately, that's kind of how it works and so on. So I get Money Mitch. Is that what you call him?
Money Mitch, MVP Mitch. Take your pick.
That's a joke. Clearly, that's a joke.
So let me ask you: you call him Money Mitch because you're waiting for him to play good 4 quarters? Is that what it is?
No, because I bet against him, so I make money.
Oh, okay. I thought it was money quarters. Nickel defense.
Hey, it is $25 down, and Mitch is gonna lose. And Mitch is Mitch $25 down, and Mitch is gonna throw an interception. That's a lock every week.
Well, they're just so sporadic offensively and so on. And listen, even before he was there and so on. And when you and I have had this conversation before. The 3 of us have had a conversation before. Ryan Pace drafted a guy as a developmental prospect with the 2nd overall pick, instead of going for a guy like Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson, who was battle tested during his days in college. So sometimes you see if you really think about it, Lamar Jackson was battle tested, but also somebody who was somebody that the Ravens wanted to develop, which is why Ozzie Newsome in his final draft with the team went back up in the first round and took him with the 32nd overall pick with that trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, once he got on the field, it was hard to keep him off of there. In the case of Mitch Trubisky, in some ways, here we go. It's kind of like Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay? Yeah, but hear me out for a second. Think about Jimmy Garoppolo was the 2nd round pick in 2014. Okay? How much football has Jimmy Garoppolo played in 7 years? Not that much.
Well, I mean, Well, yeah, because he was a
Sat
backup.
behind Brady. He got
Right.
hurt.
He
He's only
played.
had 1 year where he started all 16 games for any team.
Okay.
He started for Brady when Brady was suspended, and he got hurt in the second week of the season.
Right, and Tyrod Taylor came in.
You know, it's what. Remember going into the Super Bowl last year? Patrick Mahomes was the first round pick in 2017. 3 years after Jimmy Garoppolo was the second round pick. And who had more NFL starts? The guy who had been in the league a shorter time, Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and Patrick sat out his whole first year too.
Yeah, except for one game, and that was it. And Patrick sat out a couple of games last year too. Yeah, so sometimes you've been in this league for a while, and you don't. You know, it's like talking about Aaron Rodgers as the guy who's been in the league since 2005. Well, he didn't make his first start till 2008.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that's the kind of a significant point. So it's hard to throw a touchdown pass when you're not on the field. Okay. So I look at Mitch Trubisky, but I'm not saying Mitch Trubisky is Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm talking about experience in terms of playing the football. And Mitch Trubisky did not play a lot of college football. Okay. In fact, I'd have to go back and look. Mitch Trubisky might have more NFL starts than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he does.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
because he started for 3.5 years now.
Yeah. And Jimmy Garoppolo, remember, Jimmy Garoppolo started the final 5 games with the Niners in 2017. In week 3 at Kansas City in 2018, he hurt his knee. He was gone for the year. Mm-hmm. So, again, and that's why I think when you see Jimmy Garoppolo play and you see the turnovers that he has issues with, I think that's more lack of experience than anything else. And by the way, he's hurt again. We don't know if he's playing this week, but he got hurt and left the field against the Jets.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, I'd be like, wait a minute, somebody just compared me to Mitch Trubisky. Now I'm concerned. He should be like, whoa, my game is really backsliding when I get compared to him. No, just kidding. And you know what's funny about that is
the point I'm making as far as.
Oh, I know the point. No, I know the point.
Yeah. I mean, Peyton Manning came into this league, and he was a starter from day one. Mm-hmm. Okay, and he took his lumps as a rookie. He threw 28 interceptions, I think. Okay, 25 touchdowns, 28 interceptions. It's so much is playing time. You know, you look at with Lamar Jackson and how John Harbaugh got him on the field as a rookie in 2018, even though Flacco was the starter. Remember, they would sprinkle him in.
Yes.
It was very much what the offensive coordinator for the Ravens, who was with San Francisco when Alex Smith was the starter and Kaepernick was there. They would sprinkle Kaepernick in. Getting on the field one way or the other is very, very vital. And unfortunately for Jimmy Garoppolo, he didn't have that luxury. He was always playing behind Tom Brady, and Tom Brady never wanted to leave the field.
So when you say that, though, when we look at Mitch, well, technically Mitch has been on the field, and yet I kind of feel like what you see is what you get with him.
I agree.
I don't know that this really gets better than what it is. And that, to me, if this is as good as it gets, then I think there's a decision that has to be made that this is not good enough, because he has gotten the time on the field pretty much from day one, if you think about it.
Well, listen, I believe he started 12 games.
Week 4 or 5, yeah.
Right, with 12 games as a rookie, right. And that's that. When I say Jimmy Garoppolo, I bring up the point that Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't had nearly as many opportunities. And I think that's why he makes the mistakes that he makes. Mitch has had more opportunities than Jimmy Garoppolo as far as a starting quarterback, and he's still making the same mistakes.
How much of it would you attribute to coaching? I mean, I'm not really a Nagy fan. I'm not. People here are kind of on the fence about him. It's, the thought is that Mitch really isn't the kind of quarterback that he wants, that can do the kind of plays he wants to execute. So hence, he's kind of being pigeonholed. But I'm like, I feel like you have to work with what you have. So how much of this, like you said, it isn't all Mitch? What other pieces of it play into that, especially the coaching piece?
Well, listen, they went out and invested heavily in wide receivers a couple of years ago in the draft. In free agency. They drafted Anthony Miller in the second round. They brought in Trey Burton in free agency. They tried to surround him with a lot of weapons, and they didn't necessarily all pan out. I mean, Allen Robinson's still there. Okay, Taylor Gabriel's not there anymore. Burton is not there anymore. So that didn't necessarily pay. Anthony Miller is there, but I still think he's a mystery. Okay, I know he caught the game-winning touchdown pass in week 1, but I thought he might be a guy who could emerge as a solid number 1 receiver, and that really hasn't happened. I think all you have to know about what's going on in Chicago is the fact that they gave up a 4th-round pick to get a veteran quarterback, Nick Foles, who was familiar with Nick, and he didn't beat Trubisky out. Okay, now some people might say that's the politics. That might be Ryan Pace saying, I drafted this guy and we're starting him no matter what, and so on. But if that's how you're making football decisions, then and not putting the best player on the field necessarily. And listen, you never really know what you're getting with Nick Foles. Nick Foles is a journeyman quarterback. Okay, he had a wonderful postseason with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2017. Okay. So he went down to Jacksonville last year, and he got hurt in the first game of the season. Then they went back to him, and he struggled. And so you never know what you're getting with Nick Foles. Okay, but I think that I agree with you, Mike. I think the jury's still a little out on Matt Nagy. His first year as a head coach, they won the division. Now, did they win the division because of the offense, or did a certain defensive unit led by Vic Fangio, take the world by storm that year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I will say about Mitch Trubisky is this: it's somewhat odd. He does have a penchant for late game heroics. Okay, he really does. The year they lost to the Eagles in a wild card game, and the field goal got partially blocked, he actually took them down the field
twice.
Yeah, he took them down the field. Okay. Last week against the week before against the Lions, he orchestrated the comeback. He's had some moments, but he just doesn't sustain anything over 4 quarters. That's the biggest problem. And again, he's now been in the league 4 years and has gotten the majority of the starts for the team. And it's kind of like it's Ferris Bueller. Okay. I like saying Bueller. It comes in handy for a lot of stuff.
Everybody.
Russell, here's where my issue with is why I'm not a big Nagy guy after his tenure here, is that when you see, we've all seen, the world has seen how Mitch Trubisky performs. Okay, he performs well in those late pressure situations. He performs well when you roll him out, get him out there, give him options. He has not done that on a consistent basis. Last year, I don't know what he told them, if he told them overtly or covertly, don't run, or quote unquote real quarterbacks win from the pocket or whatever. And there are numerous times last year where he's in there, it's 3rd and 7 and there's no one within 12 yards of him and he's still looking downfield. Tuck the ball down and get your ass up and run. Okay, get the first down, move the chains. I guarantee you the offensive coordinator is not going to be that mad if you move the chains. Okay, he might not hit a receiver, but you keep moving the chains. And he was told somehow, some way not to do that. So now Mitch's his confidence, you see, is shot. It's shot unless he's put in the right position to be successful. Rollouts and things of that nature, bootlegs and nakeds and things like that. And Matt Nagy has not done that. And for whatever reason, I don't know why. Because if you give Mitch Trubisky confidence, I said this the other day, I think that the ceiling for Mitch is a middle of an above average quarterback group. He's never going to be elite. Okay. I'd say he'd be above average in the middle of that group. But they're not even scratching that surface because they're not using his skill set. You mentioned Lamar Jackson and getting on the field early. But what did they do after that? They went down to Louisville. His offensive staff went down to Louisville and said, okay, what packages did you run for Lamar Jackson that won him the Heisman? Because we want him to be comfortable. Right. They've done nothing like that for Mitch. And here's the stubborn old I'm smarter than you offensive coordinator, a.k.a. Mike Martz. And they're trying to fit Trubisky into that system instead of molding that system around Trubisky. And that is why I'm so upset with Matt Nagy.
A Sunday afternoon is not the best time to be learning how to play quarterback. And that is what you see, I think, with Mitch Trubisky. This is not the time to be trying stuff out. Okay. And to me, he's still more, I hope this says the right way. He's still more football player than he is quarterback. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. He's not still learning how to play the position. Okay. 4 years into his NFL career.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of the coach and the offensive coordinator and the people around him, Sunday afternoon is not, it's like being in the NASCAR race and you don't have your license, okay? And they're telling you to do the Indy 500, all right?
Get in, get out, swerve in and out. Let's go.
Wait a minute, what's this thing on the floor? All right? Get out, all right? On-the-job training is okay for a rookie in the developmental process, like Peyton Manning from the get-go, okay? That was, here we've got a starting from scratch, okay? We're starting from scratch in 1998, okay? And he, of course, Peyton at Tennessee had a ton of experience. Mm-hmm. Again, trying to teach Mitch Trubisky how to play quarterback on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday night or a Thursday night is not the way to go about things. And that's what it seems like they're trying to do.
Okay, so tell me this. You have the two teams meeting, obviously. You've got 2-0 Bears, 0-2 Falcons. Are the Falcons as bad as their record makes them look?
Well, they've had trouble. If I was them, I'd hire Mariano Rivera to teach them how to close out games, okay? Or close out. Now, hear me out for a second, okay? Dan Quinn, you might recall, was hired in 2015 and was 5-0 in his first year as head coach. Pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Couldn't close out the season, okay? A year later, they're in the Super Bowl. They're up 28-3. I don't have to remind you what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. We saw it last week. How do you not close out that game? Can you imagine blowing a 20-0 lead?
No.
And not being the worst thing that ever happened to you as a football franchise?
Well, I can see the Bears doing that. I mean,
no, I'm just saying, if you're the Falcons and you blew a 20-0 lead to Dallas, okay?
Right.
4 years earlier, you were still in the state of Texas and things were even worse. Okay? So there's a little bit of an issue there. And for a team that is quote unquote defensive oriented with Dan Quinn, they've given up 78 points in 2 games. 38. I mean, Russell Wilson looked like he was throwing against nobody. Okay. He was almost perfect. And the Dallas Cowboys gave up the ball 3 times in the first quarter alone, and Atlanta couldn't put it away. So I don't know what the answer is there. That's not a team devoid of talent. Matt Ryan's going to put up some phenomenal numbers this year and already has in 2 games, But there's something missing there a little. They can't seem to rush the passer. They had, the 1 year they had with Vic Beasley, and he led the league in sacks, and he's not even with the team anymore.
Right.
Okay. Dan Quinn has a defensive pedigree, and that's an offensive football team.
And their defense is horrible.
Their defense can't. I mean, and they jettisoned a lot of people this year too. Okay, they moved on from Marcus Trufant and Beasley. They didn't bring him back, and they signed Dante Fowler from the Rams. Mm-hmm. But the lack of impact plays from that defense. I mean, they're a fun team to watch if you like betting the over, I guess.
Hey, all money spends.
I'm sure you have a money nickname for Matt Ryan and Dan Quinn too, Shawn. So
fill my pockets, baby. Hey, Russell, great stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate you, man. Every time you come on, always a wealth of knowledge, and we love talking to you, buddy. So we'll be in touch soon, okay?
You got it. Can I throw out one more thing?
Sure.
Yes.
If you don't mind. I know it's a day of heavy hearts in the city of Chicago.
It is. It is. Our top story today.
I'll tell you. I have to tell you my quick story of my encounter with Gale Sayers.
Okay.
Which really wasn't an encounter with Gale Sayers. When I was at ESPN, we were doing the Pro Football Hall of Fame inductions, which is something I missed so much this year. I've been going out there for 30 years, and they were canceled this year, and it's something I really enjoy. And we were getting ready to do a shot in front of the Hall of Fame. And my coordinating producer told me and another person to make sure no one got in the shot, because I think it was Boomer and Tom Jackson were getting ready to do like an intro. Okay. So we're sitting there and we're kind of like making sure nobody gets in the way. And these 2 guys kind of walk into the shot. and it's Will Sayers and it's Ray Nitschke. Okay.
Wow.
So I turned and looked at them, and and the guy next to me was working with me. Are you going to tell them to get out of the shot? I said, no, you tell them.
Excuse me.
You tell Ray Nitschke he's in the way. Okay? Go ahead, I dare you. All I can think of is the longest yard. Okay? That's all I can say. Anyway, for a lot of people who remember Gale Sayers from Brian's song, and that unbelievable story and so on. And again, I'm sure the football fans in Chicago, rest in peace, Gale. One of the most exciting players in the 101-year history of the NFL. Anytime he touched the football, he was absolutely magnificent.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was. And we weren't fortunate enough to see him because we're a little young, but when we see the highlights, like he was Barry Sanders. He had Barry Sanders moves before Barry Sanders. And the one I don't remember what team he was playing, but I'll never forget this particular play. He cuts he puts his foot in the ground and goes north and south in a heartbeat, and all of a sudden he stops at a dime and goes 90 degrees and doesn't slow down. I was like, as a running back, to me that was just like unbelievable.
Well, running back, he could catch. He was an incredible kickoff returner.
Yep.
By the way. As a rookie, he scored 6 touchdowns on a muddy field against the San Francisco 49ers. I believe Gale Sayers still owns the rookie record for most touchdowns in the season, which was 22. Okay. Listen, we've seen some great but talk about a versatile all-around threat. His career obviously cut short with the injuries and so on. And he's the guy that when we see some of these young men who are possible Hall of Famers and guys like Dwight Stevenson and Terrell Davis, who got in despite kind of short careers, who's the first name that gets brought up who didn't play that long, and yet you knew from watching him he was something special? It was the great Gale Sayers.
Yes, it was.
Hey, great stuff, Russell. We'll talk soon, buddy.
You got it, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Likewise. Thanks. Guys, that was Russell Baxter from PFG Vibe. And, man, just love talking with Russell. His story.
He's got story. I mean, that's the, and you're right.
Stories upon stories.
And you're right. The only thing we could ever see of Gale Sayers was just film. But I'll tell you what, you were like, wow. Damn. I mean, I'm looking like if he was playing today, oh my God.
One of the things I said was during the top of the morning when we talked about it, I said, imagine if the medical technology if he played in a time where the technology advancements in medicine where they are, hell, even in the beginning of the 2000s, like when Adrian Peterson came back from his knee and his ACL. Imagine Gale Sayers coming off of an ACL nowadays and him still being able to do that for another, 5 or 6 seasons. Come on, man. His
numbers would just be like off the chain. And, it's a sad, he had dementia.
He did.
And that's a really hard way to pass away. Literally, your body forgets how to do what it's supposed to do. So when I heard that this morning, I mean, even here, it was like big news. I was like, oh, wow. So yeah, sad. Young too. 77 is not, that is not old. It's not. So very, very young to pass away. So that was very sad news this morning when I heard it.
Let's take a quick break. And on the other side of the break, we have more. We'll catch up with Maya, over, would you say you're Belize? Is that where you're at?
I wish, but I'm in warm weather, so I'm okay with this.
We'll catch up more with Maya on the other side of the break. We need to get her take on the Bears 2-0 start. I know she's hanging with that team up north, further north than that team.
Oh, wait, they 0-2. So my side team ain't doing well. Hello. I was like, we might have to break up because this is not working. Anyways.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back. Keep it locked right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
BoomerNaturals.com presents the Sports Flash on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. It appears the Bulls are set to get serious. They could be a real contender, says Adrian Wojnarowski. This coming after the team hired former Oklahoma City Thunder head coach Billy Donovan.
He has a roster with Zach LaVine and this young core in Chicago that I think most agree underachieved under the previous regime. And this is a team that I think can compete to be relevant again in the East. And again, Chicago is one of the landmark organizations, franchises in the league, and they should be in the conversation for big free agents. And I think the belief is, Billy Donovan, Karnisovas, That's a tandem now that ownership, the Reinsdorfs believe, can start setting them on that track again.
Boomer Naturals, your source for 3-layer protective face masks. Breathable protection for adults and kids. Save 20% with promo code SPORTS at boomernaturals.com. Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
This week at Macy's, it's full on fall, and we're so ready for it with the latest trends for cool and crisp weather ahead. Chic black and white styles will be your go-to. Classic plaids feel bold and put together, and so many bright hues add that extra pop to any look. Plus, you won't want to miss new arrivals from your favorite brands like Inc., Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and more. Now at Macy's. And Star Rewards members earn on every purchase except gift cards, services, and fees. More info at Macys.com/Star Rewards.
Cleanings, checkups, and cavities? Have Dr. Chang's dental practice at capacity.
Patient in room 1 is getting a root canal. The x-rays in room 2 are going to have to wait. We're down to 1 hygienist.
It's time to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR 2019. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. I just got off with Russell Baxter talking a little NFL and Bears action, and I'll tell you what, it was interesting. Yeah, I'm wondering how much longer this regular season preseason look is going to be there. It's going to be another 2 weeks. Which is what I'm thinking. Basically, the first quarter of the season. So, that's why I had to amend my statement with Mitch. Like, I pulled him out of there immediately. No, you got to give him time. And I know he was working with his receivers in the offseason, unlike Nick Foles, who didn't have that chance. But you still working in the offseason and game speed are two different things. When there's guys who are, 280, 300-pound linemen, roaring at you and trying to rip your head off, and you have to move and you still got to make good throws. Which we saw Mitch didn't do a lot of in the first couple of weeks. A lot of underthrown, thrown behind. The one to Cole Kmet in week 1 was the one that really stood out to me. And then I'm watching yesterday's game or Sunday's game, and I'm just watching who was it? Who was playing? No, it was the Monday night game. And I'm trying to think of who the quarterback was. Just threw it in. Was it Carr? I think it was Carr, where he just threw it to in stride, and you talk about just catching it and just keep running, not stopping, not throwing it behind. He did throw one behind, but the defender, he had separation, so he was able to run. But a lot of other throws, and you just see it so effortlessly. And I'm like, well, why do they have the ability to do that, and Mitch does it? I don't know. It's just frustrating
because they have different skill sets. That's why they have the skills to do that. Mitch does not have that same level of skill, even in its rawest form. He doesn't have that. He's still developing that piece. And that's the part that's crazy considering how long he's been playing at the NFL level. I really feel like we should see a better shift. Now, mind you, we can say it was 1-year coach with Fox, then he got Nagy. But I feel like even though like we said that everyone is still kind of, well, obviously everybody's not playing in preseason form because there's some people hitting on all cylinders. Like, look at the Raiders for God's sakes. You know what's different? And this is the thing I pay attention to with a lot of teams. And that's why I said the Bears are 2-0 despite themselves. And it's really about who they've played because that game against the Giants was ridiculous to me. Mm-hmm. I was like, they're struggling against a team they shouldn't even be struggling against. That's part of the issue I have with this. So that's why we know they're not really a 2-0 team. It's opportunity has made them a 2-0 team, and maybe opportunity will make them a 3-0 team. But in regards to the preseason, well, here's the problem with Mitch. Even after he gets preseason games, because remember last year, Nagy's attitude was nobody needed preseason. Remember he said that? And then preseason got pulled from him this year, which I think is interesting. His teams never necessarily look prepared to me. And that's the other issue. It's like, I feel like they got to get like warmed up before they really start playing. And maybe this is why they look like it takes them to get to the third or fourth quarter. I don't know. It's just everything about them as a team. They're just not connecting the dots the way that they need to connect the dots to me. And I just think, what you see is what you get with Mitch. I don't anticipate he's going to get any better. I just legitimately feel this is who he is.
Then you and I are going to disagree. How much he's going to get? He's not going to get better. I'm not saying he's going to be Hall of Fame worthy. Please don't say that. But I think he will get better, and I think the reason he's going to get better is the fact that they're running the ball. And that's one thing. Thank God that they've this Juan Castillo thing is really. I don't know if it's just him or he's just decided to make a commitment to the run this year, because they've averaged 29.5, so 30 rushes a game in the first 2 weeks. Remember, Maya was saying 30 times a game.
No, we agreed on that. Oh, absolutely, we agree.
And so that has been a big help for Mitch, and I'll never absolve Mitch from his own. He's got to step up. He's got to step up. You're in your Mickey Ficky 4th year in the league. Okay, I know you like to roll out. I know you like bootlegs and naked and all these other stuff, but you need to hit receivers in stride from the pocket. Okay. As a first-year quarterback, okay, second-year quarterback, okay, maybe they could do things for you to make you comfortable. But now you're a veteran in the league. Okay, now you need to stand up and be a quarterback. Not, hey, coach, can you continue to do this for me? Don't get me wrong, he should continue to do that for you. But if he doesn't, then you need to make the adjustment. You need to be effective in and out of the pocket. I'm never going to absolve Mitch from him learning and adapting and evolving. Okay. But I'm not gonna absolve Matt Nagy either for not doing it and making it easier for the quarterback to do that. So they both really got to grow up, and they both really need to take steps forward, because we're not gonna once we do start hitting teams that are once we find out who the real teams are and we hit them and they're on our schedule. Yeah, like that team up north who I hate. God bless it, that Green Bay Packer team looked
coming into the season with what seemed like question marks. Just like that, playing good football. It doesn't matter how you feel about Green Bay, you got to respect it. I mean, let's be honest, the one area they're not deficient in is at quarterback position. So as goes the quarterback, and I think people generally feel this way about the NFL, as goes your quarterback, goes your team. Because if you don't have a guy, you could have the greatest receivers in the world, but if you don't have a guy who can get on the ball, guess what? It doesn't matter. Yep. It's going to be an issue. So again, there you have it. I think right now we can look at the playing field and say, okay, there's some teams we know are going to start to win games. They're going to play better. I mean, it's just like you said, hiccups, injuries, having to make adjustments because of players deciding to opt out. I mean, everybody had those little pieces to the puzzle that they had to figure out, so to speak. Hence, this is why I think it's been a little quirky coming into this season. But the one area besides Mitch, the only other area that I'm kind of concerned about is a little bit more about the defense. They're not playing at that level. Even with I understand but still, you got Akeem Hicks. You know what I'm saying? You lost something, but you got something back. You know what I mean? And to me, they're good enough when they miss somebody here and there. They're just not playing at the high level. And I'm really disappointed because I expected so much more of Pagano. And I'm like, what's happening here? Why are they not playing at this level? I mean, especially against the two teams they've played, they should have been dominant, Shawn.
Should have been. But it really goes to show you how important Eddie Goldman is. And I know you're like, well, one guy, that nose tackle, especially in a 3-4 defense, if you get a defensive tackle out in a 4-3 defense, okay, you can still kind of cover it up. But when you get a nose guard who's being dominated in a 3-4 defense, your run defense is shot. It doesn't matter what you have on the outsides, unless you start blitzing up the middle, unless you have run blitzes up there. And that's what you mentioned, and I agree with you. Come on, Chuck. You're missing Eddie Goldman.
Exactly.
You knew exactly what you had in it when you got him last year, and now that he's gone. Bilal Nichols is more of a defensive end or defensive tackle type guy. He's not really a zero technique over that nose guard, and he's not big. He doesn't have enough weight in his ass. I don't know about the strength, but he just doesn't have enough weight in the ass. So you're getting double teamed on a consistent basis. And Eddie Goldman was big enough to withstand the double team and get through the double team. So when you got a guy like Bilal Nichols, and there's no shot to him because he's playing out of position, but when you don't have that guy in the middle and in a 3-4 defense, and what happens? Adrian Peterson rushes for almost 100 yards, and it's exactly what we're seeing happening, them running all over us. Remember I talked about on the offensive side of the ball, to have a great running game, you need a center and two guys. Those are 3 guys you need for a good running game. Well, when you got a poor or a guy who's not up to snuff on the as a nose guard in a 3-4, and you have decent, because remember on the Giants have 4 first or second rounders on that offensive line. They're just young. So give them another year or two, and that offensive line is going to be really strong. That's why they're able to move Bilal Nichols. You move Bilal Nichols, you move that nose guard, and you could have Mack and Robert Quinn coming off the corner all you want. They're running up the middle, and that's what they're doing. And if I was any offensive coordinator, I'm busting you straight talking A-zone runs majority of the game because they can move below nickels. And then this is where Chuck Pagano has to start doing A-gap run blitzes.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. He's got to make some adjustments what he have, and I just feel like these 2 games is where we should be seeing the adjustments because you get an easy start. Not that I'm not giving any team that they're NFL teams, but let's be honest, you know what you're playing against, the caliber of teams. This is where the adjustments need to be made, and I just don't feel like I'm seeing the adjustments because it's only going to get rougher. So that's defensively, I'm a little disappointed with what I'm seeing from them more so from the offense.
Yeah, me too. And you don't have to send a house. Okay, when you know on rundowns you can run blitz. Okay, because you know where they're going and you know you're having problems in that run game. Run blitz. Come on, Chuck. You're not leaving guys. You can still run zone in the back, whatever you want in the back. In the secondary, you're not leaving anyone on an island, but you can still run blitz and secure that and stop. How do you think the Giants got held? Saquon Barkley, man, it sucks about his knee, but how his first game, 15 carries, 6 yards. Why? Because they were run blitzing. They are run blitzing. 11 out of his 15 carries, he was hit in the backfield because they're run blitzing, because they know that. And that's what Chuck's got. He's got to get more aggressive. And again, I don't know if it's him, and being not as aggressive because maybe he's thinking the offense can't score or whatever, or if it's Nagy. I don't know what it is, but that's got to change because they got to get aggressive on first down.
But here's the thing, though. The defense I'm seeing is not the defense I thought I was going to get from Pagano because Pagano is aggressive prior to coming to Chicago. Yeah. He was like an exotic blitzer the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, why am I not feel like I'm seeing a Chuck Pagano type defense that I was expecting? I don't know. Yep. So,
and that makes us wonder if it's coming from above his head. Man, that would really suck. Well, listen, we got to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about the new guy on the west side. On the west side. Billy the Kid is now roaming the Wild West down the west side. Billy Donovan is the new head coach for the Chicago Bulls. And we're going to talk to Doug Schwam, who covers the Bulls for Sports Mockery. We're going to talk to him about his thoughts. And what does he see the Bulls? Do we see a reuniting and it feels so good with Joakim Noah? Possibly. We're going to talk to Doug Schwam next. Don't go anywhere, folks. Keep it locked right here. Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago.
BoomerNaturals.com presents the Sports Flash on 1330 and 95.9 The Zone. It appears the Bulls are set to get serious. They could be a real contender, says Adrian Wojnarowski. This coming after the team hired former Oklahoma City Thunder head coach Billy Donovan.
He has a roster with Zach LaVine and this young core in Chicago that I think most agree underachieved under the previous regime. And this is a team that I think can compete to be relevant again in the East. And again, Chicago is one of the landmark organizations, franchises in the league, and they should be in the conversation for big free agents. And I think the belief is, Billy Donovan, Karnisovas, that's a tandem now that ownership, the Reinsdorfs believe, can start setting them on that track again.
Boomer Naturals, your source for 3-layer protective face masks. Breathable protection for adults and kids. Save 20% with promo code SPORTS at BoomerNaturals.com. Chuck Sanders, that's the Sports Flash, 1330 95.9 The Zone.
This week at Macy's, it's full on fall, and we're so ready for it with the latest trends for cool and crisp weather ahead. Chic black and white styles will be your go-to. Classic plaids feel bold and put together, and so many bright hues add that extra pop to any look. Plus, you won't want to miss new arrivals from your favorite brands like Inc., Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and more. Now at Macy's. And Star Rewards members earn on every purchase except gift cards, services, and fees. More info at Macys.com/Star Rewards.
Cleanings, checkups, and cavities? Have Dr. Chang's dental practice at capacity.
Patient in room 1 is getting a root canal. The x-rays in room 2 are going to have to wait. We're down to 1 hygienist.
It's time to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. The moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Indeed delivers 2.5 times more hires than the other branded job sites combined, according to Breezy HR 2019. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. And we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk a little hoops. We haven't talked basketball in a minute, Maya, huh?
Well, there was no reason to talk about basketball.
Yeah, that's true. not from a Chicago perspective.
From a Chicago perspective, so you tend to ignore things when you can't really talk about the Bulls. Yeah, and everything you were talking about wasn't necessarily good stuff. So, yeah. But now we have something to talk about. So it is what it is.
Yes, we do. Well, we're going to bring on our next guest. And, man, I'm looking forward to talking to him because we do have tons of questions about the new guy, the new head coach that the Bulls have. He's the Bulls basketball writer for Sports Mockery. Let's bring him in. You can find him on Twitter at Buckets2434. Guys, welcome Doug Schwab. Doug, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey there, guys. I'm doing well. How are you both enjoying this wonderful day?
I'm good. I'm in Vegas, so I'm happy. Sunny, it's warm, so it's good.
I'm in the shy, but it's going to be 80 degrees today. So man, Maya, you're not the only one in nice weather.
I mean, it's like 100, but I'd take 80 if I was in Chicago. It figures I leave. Right. It figures I leave and it's warm. I'm going to come back and it'll probably be cold. That's how things work. But yeah. All right. So let's talk about, obviously, the Bulls have been on a spiral for quite a bit of time. We know that. Not just from a coaching standpoint. To me, it felt like players had checked out, like they just weren't interested. How big is this hire? Are we overstating it because we knew they needed a good head coach, or legitimately is Billy Donovan going to be definitely someone that can equalize this and get the best out of these players?
Well, I think if you look at it, especially with Adrian Wojnarowski pointing out, the Bulls made this hire not to rebuild, but to start competing and possibly make a playoff run. And Arturis and Mark Eversley, both in charge of the front office, went out and got the best coach available. And I think that's really important because Arturis said he wasn't going to rush into this decision like he did with Jim Boylan. And I know a lot of fans got upset about that. But it turns out in the end that all panned out extremely well. And due to his patience, they were able to go out and grab the best guy available. Woj pointed out that Arturis flew down to Florida to meet up with Billy Donovan once he heard that Billy wasn't going to be going back with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he was aggressive and got his guy. So I think this is a really big hire, and it's the first time since Scott Skiles that the Bulls have actually hired an NBA head coach with previous experience, considering the other coaches that they brought, whether it was an assistant coach like Thibodeau or Vinny Del Negro, or guys coming out of the college ranks like Fred Hoiberg. So this is extremely different, and it's a different vibe, and Chicago Bulls fans should be excited for that because this is a guy that's a proven winner in the NBA. Even though he's made several or numerous first-round playoff exits, this guy has a ton of experience with coaching, and he's a player's coach. And Bulls fans should be really, really excited. I know I am.
I look at the fact of the Bulls are a young team, obviously a very coachable team. It was about having the right coach in front of them. And I like the fact that, Donovan, his pedigree does come out of Florida. He was very successful. So I think he's going to understand how to navigate these young players from that standpoint of, yes, I know their mindsets. Yes, they are NBA players, but I think this is a good balance to strike with him being a former head coach, not just at the NBA level, but also having a good amount of success in the college level as well.
Oh, yeah. And you look at it, too. You look all across the league, players have been praising him. Like, look at Bradley Beal. He posted on his Instagram about how excited he was that Billy Donovan got the coaching opportunity. So he's a player's coach. And from all the experience and all the success he had in college, too, I mean, his resume just is extremely lengthy, but really beneficial. So, I mean, he brings the experience to the table. And I think he can use that experience to help develop these players because this is like a lot of radio hosts and a lot of writers were mentioning how this is going to be Billy Donovan's biggest challenge is because it's a top 3 market in the NBA, and you've got a young roster that's sort of in rebuilding and it's looking to take that next step forward to possibly making the playoffs. So it's going to be a challenge, but Billy obviously wanted this job. Because there were other job openings out there with more star-studded players like the Sixers with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the young Pacers team too, DeMontis Sabonis, Miles Turner, all of those guys. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, So it should come as an awesome experience or an awesome signing, because there were other teams out there he could have chosen, but he went with Chicago, and it's exciting.
Guys, we're joined by Doug Schwab from Sports Mockery, who covers the Bulls for them. Talk a little Bulls basketball right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning on SportsZone Chicago. You know, one of the things that why I really like this hire a lot is that if you look and you go back and Maya mentioned how he's got college experience, and we know he won back-to-back national championships in Florida. Give me a big name, a superstar on that team. Now, we all know the names, but there was no actual superstar. Okay, they're all really talented guys who came together. Like, you know, obviously Joakim Noah. Joakim Noah's not a superstar. He's a guy who works hard. He rebounds, he plays defense. He's the heart and soul of the team. Tito Horford, again, he's not a guy you build a team around. Okay, Corey Brewer, he's not a guy you build a team around. So he took a lot of guys and he created a team. And you talk about playing together. Those guys in Florida play together. Obviously, to win 2 national championships back to back, that's just stating the obvious. This is why I like this hire, because we have a lot of talented guys here. Maybe a superstar in the making in Zach LaVine, if he can get to that point. Maybe a superstar in the making in Kobe White. But all in all, he's got guys there who are extremely talented, and if he can get them to play the way he did those guys in Florida, I think we got, you know, again, I want the sum to be bigger than the parts. And I think that's what he can do for this team and have them playing as an excellent team, not necessarily having a superstar-centric basketball team.
I think you brought up many great points, Shawn, and I'm going to allude to his NBA career when he was coaching the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, obviously, when in 2012, the Oklahoma City Thunder lost in the NBA Finals, and then they brought in Billy Donovan, and he coached James Harden, and he coached Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. And when the Thunder and Sam Presti decided to rebuild that roster, Billy Donovan still managed to get that team to the playoffs, even when they were in rebuild mode. So that just shows you how far of a coach he is, or how good of a coach he has the potential to be, especially when it comes to developing players. And that's what Arturis is looking for, a guy who can help develop these young guys in Lowry, Kobe, Wendell, and Zach. I mean, and I think from a proven track record, when Oklahoma City starts rebuilding, you can get high hopes for that, because those guys, to me, just have as big of a potential as our current guys, as our current four that the Bulls currently have. So I think that's really exciting, and that's really eye-opening, especially from that year.
Kind of, you were a little low in that last part. There we go. There we go. Gotcha. You were kind of like trailing off.
Oh boy. I'm new to this. So.
No. It was like, wait, he's fading away. Okay. Say that last part again, because you got harder to hear at the end.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really eye-opening considering his last few years when the Oklahoma City Thunder started rebuilding with Sam Presti. I mean, that roster wasn't as good as like the current young Bulls that are on the roster right now. So the development I'm really excited to see what he can do with the development of our current young core guys.
So I look at it as, and I agree with you on that. I'm like, the Bulls have a good roster. This season, before everything kind of went the way it did, I felt at best they should have been an 8th seed in the East. I felt they were good enough to be that. And it didn't happen for lots of reasons. So my question is, do you feel okay, now we've got the coaching piece plugged in place. Generally speaking, almost everyone is happy with it. Do you feel there's something missing from a player standpoint that they need to add to this roster to improve or get better? Or would you say, no, sit pat, work with what you have. This is good enough to be competitive. Probably not dominating the East necessarily, but good enough to be competitive.
I think the obvious answer would be to go after a superstar, but as Arturis has alluded to, like this year is going to be the time to evaluate the roster, play out expiring contracts, because Felicia's going to be expiring, Otto Porter's going to be expiring, and that 21 draft class or that 21 free agency class is going to be star-studded, possibly with Giannis leading the way. And it all depends too. Will Anthony Davis be on that market too? It all depends on what he does after this season. If he wants to stay with the Lakers for another year, or if he picks up his option, it all depends. But this year's just going to be evaluating the roster. Arturo has talked about adding a few players, so expect him to add only a few players, like possibly to the wing position, because that was one of their biggest weaknesses last year. Obviously, the coaching and everything needed to overhaul and everything. But if you're looking at the basketball team, you needed a dire upgrade at the wing position, considering Otto Porter missed a lot of the season last year.
He did. And you know what? Initially, when we picked up Porter, I was liking how things were coming together. Mm-hmm. And then you're right. He missed a lot of the season. That messed with the whole chemistry. But then, lo and behold, you get Kobe White, who I believe the Donovan pickup for him is going to be huge. That development piece for him is going to take him just to that next level. I think you couldn't have gotten a better matchup, even though, I've been clamoring for a while that I wanted Mark Jackson. I really did. But I'm happy. I mean, I like the Billy Donovan pickup. I do, because I think it's going to be good, not just for Kobe White, but I'm hoping he can get Lowry back on track, because clearly he was taken off track with Boylen. Totally off track.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what all Bulls fans are hoping for, is Lowry can take the next step. And I think, too, you just want to see all four of those guys on the floor at the same time, because we didn't get to see that often. So I think, obviously, the development of those guys like Lowry, he needs to figure out why that he took a step back last year. And looking back, Casey Johnson did an interview one-on-one with Mark Eversley. And one of the things Mark pointed out that was really awesome to hear from me was that we got to figure out what went wrong with Lowry last year. We got to figure out what he needs to do to improve and why he regressed all of a sudden. And I think that had to do with the way Boylen was running his system and everything. Mm-hmm. And just letting him sit out there. He wasn't being aggressive, and then injuries too were bugging him. He had that hip injury that he was trying to play through. So I think this is obviously a big year too for him, because it's his Lowry's development is really important, and hopefully he can turn it around, because he's in the contract year, and that'll determine whether or not the Bulls want to bring him back. And I think he has the opportunity to take that next step, especially with compared to the previous staff development.
Lowry is a guy that we really need to get going. But give me your thoughts on Kobe White. Where do you see him? Do you see him as a superstar? Maya talked about this hire, and she didn't mention it, but I think she alluded to, Maya, because you had a great point guard. Now he'll be coaching a great, a point guard that we hope can be great. Talk to me about where do you think this hire can take Kobe White? Because Kobe White becomes a superstar that we're hoping it can be, and it's the Kobe White and Zach LaVine show. To me, that's a very, very beautiful 1-2 combo that the Bulls will have.
Yeah, absolutely. I am extremely excited about those two in the backcourt. And it's like, it kind of bugged me a little bit that people were too quick on judging Kobe and his potential, because a lot of fans out there were like, oh man, I don't know if Kobe's the right fit. Even journalists were questioning his abilities too. Did you look at what he was doing? It's just because he didn't get all the opportunity that Boylen kept him on the bench for so long, and he didn't get his first start until the last game before the season was canceled because of COVID, and he won Rookie of the Month. So, I mean, why are we being so quick to judge the guy when he didn't get enough opportunities? And when he did get an opportunity, he managed to dominate during that time. Obviously, winning the Rookie of the Month proved that. So I am super excited to see those two in the backcourt, because we didn't get that opportunity to see them a lot together last year. So I think this is going to be a real game changer for them in next season.
Go ahead.
One guy, and we might be going the same route. One guy that we really want to get going that we haven't has been hurt is Wendell Carter Jr. Mm-hmm. And because I know Maya's loves her some Wendell Carter Jr.
I was the one person when they picked that draft pick that everyone's like, it's a safe pick. I'm no way. It's a smart pick. I don't think people realize what he was going to bring to the table. So definitely, I was like, trust me, this isn't safe. This is a lot more smarter than you realize.
Talk to me about what this can do for Wendell Carter, because we saw some flashes of brilliance in him, despite the coaching that he had. And this guy had a much better game offensively than I thought he did. Defensively, he's a stud. Which is phenomenal. So he's a two-way player. I mean, there were a couple of times, not very often because of his injury, but you saw him, block a shot on one end and get get rewarded for running the court for a dunk at the other end. And this guy can do that. He can run the court. Talk to me about how this guy could be helped with maybe is there a possibility that Joakim Noah comes back and can kind of help this guy? Obviously him and Donovan go back all the way to Florida, back-to-back national championships.
Man, when you mentioned Joakim Noah, I got all excited.
I saw it. You just smiled.
I love the guy. He was my favorite player when he was on this team. I think Joe would be a great option, especially with, outside of Wendell Carter Jr. and Daniel Gafford, you have Felicio and Cornette who are still in deals. I mean, I would love to see Joe be back on this team because he would be loved. He would be well respected coming back to the city of Chicago. I think he would be a great fit. He would be that veteran presence who's familiar with the coach and would be able to mentor the young guys like a Wendell Carter Jr., who has been struggling due to injury. For me, I know there were all these mentions during the past season of him wanting to transition to the power forward position, possibly. I would rather him stay at the center position because I think Lauri Markkanen is going to take that next step. And I think we need to see what Wendell Carter Jr. is capable of. I mean, the guy's really young, so he still has a lot of development, but he has proven time and time again that he could be a reliable player and a future star. I know Mark Eversley holds him high. I mean, when he was mentioning the core guys, he was really high on Wendell Carter Jr. He liked his game. He liked his style of play, and he thought he could fit into the Bulls system extremely well. So I think if the Bulls front office is really high on him, then he's going to have a bright future here. I think what he needs to improve on, he needs to be a consistent shooter. He's shown from time and time again that he can do that, but his defense has been stellar and phenomenal when he hasn't been dealing with injury. And to me, that's kind of surprising considering he's one of the smallest centers in the NBA, and he's only 6'11" or something like that, or 6'9".
Only.
Remember, but the guy is extremely freakishly athletic. I mean,
yes, he is.
Look at the way he played defense. I mean, if that doesn't get you excited about about Wendell Carter Jr., I don't know what else can. But he needs to improve his consistency on offense. And I think once he's in Billy Donovan's system, he'll take full advantage of that because Boylen, again, didn't use his players properly, like Wendell and Lowry.
So 2 questions. One, Chris Dunn, in, out? Just curious, because Chris Dunn's been one of those things that's kind of been, you think he should be done, and then he plays at a level that you remember why they got him in the first place. So that'd be my first question. And Ivan wanted to throw out, I mean, I guess he wants to hash oldie but goodies, so he wants to add about Derek. Like, can Derrick Rose come back?
Well, to answer your first question, I'm yes on Chris Dunn. And I think he would be a great backup point guard to Kobe White because Kobe's more of an offensive pass-first kind of player, whereas Chris Dunn coming off the bench would be your elite defensive option because he's proven time and time again that he's an elite defender, top 5, if not, because that's how great of a defender he is. And you need that kind of defense because you need to have a well-balanced team. So I'm all in on Chris Dunn. If he wants to come back and if Arturas is willing to bring him back, he's not going to be what you expected when you traded for him in the Jimmy Butler trade. But to get that guy to come off the bench and be your best defensive option with Daniel Gafford possibly, I mean, that would be phenomenal. Like you already have a guy, you could bring him back maybe for a smaller amount of money, I would guess. It all depends on what they want to do and what Arturas and the front office see him. But I would be all for that to bring him back coming off the bench. To Sean's point on Derrick Rose.
No, that was Ivan.
That was Ivan. Producer Ivan. That was his question.
Ivan. I'm sorry. I don't know.
You can say no. It's okay. You can say no. Okay, just say it.
It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no.
Say that is, I love Derek. Derek is the heart. Joe was the heart and soul of that team in the 2011, but Derek will always have a special place in my heart. Like, I think they should retire his number because he was the youngest MVP in league history and he won Rookie of the Year. So I'm not doubting Derrick Rose. I think he was a great player, but just I don't see the fit. I don't see the fit right now. I think Joe would be a great mentor and a great backup because of his experience with Coach Donovan and that. But Derek, I just can't see that fit right now. I think he would want to be a starter. And when you got Kobe White in the mix, I think, if he wants to retire a Bull like what he did with Luol Deng when he's ready to retire, I'm all for that. Let's retire his number. But for fit currently, I would have to say no to that.
I agree.
What about like a stretch playoff run if he does want to retire? Let's say like they do crack the playoff spot, and we all know they're not going to make. I don't think they're going to win a title next year. But let's say they do crack a playoff spot. I want the nostalgia. If you're going to bring back Joe, bring them all back.
No.
Bring back. I'm joking. Of course. It's just that it hurts. Like that one hurt. Like, and then like the real talk about bringing Joe back. I'm just like, don't remind me. Don't remind me.
So apparently, seeing Joe would bring back thoughts of Joe and Derek, and there's no Derek.
But I do agree with you, Doug, that I think that Joakim can actually be a good fit for what they have. His role, he would totally, I think, fit into that and give him that intensity that they don't exactly have, So, Gafford does have it. Gafford's intense.
Yeah.
He's intense, but it's interesting. So yeah, you're right. I'd like to see Chris Dunn come back. I think defensively he's good. You're right. His role can't be the same now with Kobe White taking that step forward. Mm-hmm. But from a second defensive unit, yes, absolutely. It's kind of like, when if nothing else, Coach Thibs, when he found out how to use Luol Deng, that was the important piece. He was better. He was like, maybe a 3 or a 4 in your first unit, but your second unit, he was running the floor with them. Chris Dunn could be that other piece too to make sure that they don't fall off defensively, fall off offensively. I think his role now could be more with that second unit than with the first unit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like you said, with him and Gafford, who are more defensive-minded players, I mean that would help the first unit especially. Mm-hmm. It's exciting to think about, and as a Bulls fan should be. It's like finally a sense of relief, or like. That what's the metaphor? The monkey comes off your back or something like that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like we don't have to deal with the clowns in the front office like Paxson and Foreman. Now we have an actual competent front office that knows how to run things and knows how to build a front office and build a team. And now they just proved it by taking the next step with Billy Donovan. And that's really, really exciting, especially with the young talent and all the potential, even if looking at the veterans, what will happen with Sato and Thaddeus Young? I mean, will they take the next step as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Doug, you mentioned a good point. And, we got rid of those clowns, the guys in the front office, and they were just making them, no pun intended, a mockery of this organization that was once so proud. You talk about Chicago Bulls were a worldwide brand, and they got reduced to a laughing stock throughout the NBA. And, the changing of the guards for me was so important. And here's why. You get, you bring in AK and he brings in Eversley, and their thought of now they have no working professional relationship with Billy Donovan, but they saw in him. He's only been it's been a very short amount of time since he decided he's not coming back, or they mutually parted ways, him and OKC. And that was their first guy. Boom! As soon as he was available, it reminds me, may I say, of the Cubs in after 2014 when Joe Madden and the Tampa Bay Rays, mutually parted ways, and all of a sudden, man, they're like, sorry, Ricky, you did a good job, but there's a guy that we want, that we know.
There you go to the South Side now.
Yeah. And this is very reminiscent of that, is that they saw the guy that they wanted with no professional relationship whatsoever, and with either of them, and they went after him and got him. To me, that shows they know talent, or they're aggressive, and they're very definitive in what they want. They go get it, and I think he's a really good coach, and for all the reasons I stated earlier in this interview. So I think it's you could definitely say that the dawn of a new day. You see his new management, a new style, and so with all that being said, I'll make a long story longer. How are they going to attract free agents? Is this now a place to come for free agents? Because you see, Garpax is no longer running the show. Billy Donovan has shown he's coached a lot of good players. A lot of players have phenomenal things to say, nothing but phenomenal things to say about him. So now, how easy is it going to be for the Chicago Bulls to start getting some top-notch free agents?
Well, as we alluded to earlier, like a lot of players around the league were praising or saying congrats to Billy Donovan, like a Bradley Beal, who's set to become a free agent soon. I mean, that's another option to consider. I mean, I think with the signing of Billy Donovan, who is well respected around the league, Arturas is an executive, Mark Eversley is an executive. They're all well respected around the league. Gar Forman was not respected by anybody.
Nobody.
Jim Boylan was not. And
Nobody.
I think even if you would have brought in these assistant coaches, top assistant coaches like a Wes Unseld, they would have been more respectable, but not to the degree of Billy Donovan. So I think this is extremely huge for the push for free agency. I think with bringing in Billy Donovan, that helps your case for bringing in a big name free agent that we haven't seen in so long, because for years we've been going back and forth on like these second tier free agents like a Carlos Boozer and Al Gasol. I mean, we couldn't land the top free agents. And I think now with a front office and Billy Donovan leading the way, I think we can do that now, especially since Chicago's the third largest market in the city. It has some great young pieces on the roster. Now they have the number 4 overall pick too in the draft. What's not to like about it? I mean, besides the cold weather, I mean, Chicago should be a top tier destination now.
You know what's going to be, and something you said earlier that I think speaks volumes about you feel like this is truly a culture shift from front office to coaching, is that look at all the opportunities that Donovan passed up and chose Chicago like over Philadelphia and some other places. That speaks volumes to what he believes they have here. That he believes that there's an opportunity to win. Because if you think about it, you would say, well, who wouldn't take Philly over Chicago when you got Embiid and, you've got all these other pieces to it?
Simmons, yeah.
And Simmons, he looked at Chicago and obviously he saw something here. But I also think it's about tourists saying, this is a different mindset. This is a different day in Chicago. And you got to like the fact, though he's not in Denver, you got to like what you're seeing happen in Denver. He was the architect of that. So to me, he's got to feel like he's got a guy that knows how to build a team that's going to give him what he needs to be successful.
Especially since Denver was a smaller market team. I mean, look at all the guys they drafted. Gary Harris, Yusuf Nurkic, and obviously Nikola Jokic, who was a second-round pick. That just shows you how important developing your players is. And obviously the Bulls previously they would trade away their second-round picks like they were washaways. I mean, you got to look at every aspect of the market on how to find players, whether it's undrafted free agency or the second round. So Arturis is going to look at every option to find players that can fit this roster, and he's going to develop them. And I think that's what's exciting, because we've seen what Jamal Murray has become, Nikola Jokic has become, Michael Porter is starting to head in the right direction. Gary Harris, I mean, he's no player compared to Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, but he's a solid defensive player that can contribute on and off again. And they were able to bring in Paul Millsap. That just excites me even more, because if they could get Paul Millsap, who's a second-tier free agent, think about what Arturis can do with a city like Chicago. I mean, like, he's got more options and more benefits when you're working in a bigger, larger market. I mean, that should excite you when you think about the future, because of what Arturis was able to accomplish in a small market like Denver. He can probably improve much more in the city of Chicago when it comes to grabbing free agents and signing them for more money.
Guys, he's Doug Schwab. He writes for Sports Mockery. Great stuff, buddy. We appreciate it. Do me a favor, though. Let everyone know where they can find you and your work online.
Yeah, sportsmockery.com, write about the Bulls, and then follow me on Twitter at Buckets2434. I mean, Bulls Twitter's been really active, so I'm down for any conversations talking Bulls.
Hey, Doug, real quick. So what is any significance to the 24 and 34 and Buckets 24-34, your handle?
Well, 24 was always my favorite number, and it wasn't even because of Kobe. And now I'm starting to get into number 5, because I wore that for baseball all the time at basketball when I was younger. So 24-34. 24 was my favorite number. My cousins, they always loved Walter Payton, so they would wear 34 on their jerseys. So I think I just liked that 24-34 seemed like a great.
Okay, pretty cool. All right, buddy, we'll be in touch soon, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All righty. Guys, that was Doug Schwab from Sports Mockery. Talking a little Bulls. Yeah, Maya, this has got me. It rejuvenized. I still got those. And now that I'm, I don't know if I told you, I'm down 13 pounds from my heaviest weight with CrossFit and eating well. So,
That's funny. Oh, God, is that funny?
Oh, my God. Ivan, you're on point today, Baba. You're on point.
Ivan gets the memes. He gets them.
I still got those clothes with tags. I got Bull stuff with tags.
Oh, that's right, you did. That's right. So now you can actually, the only thing that was awesome about the year was like I was loving the whole city line they had done.
Oh yeah,
the city, that line was hot. I was like, too bad they weren't. but I liked that a lot. So, hopefully we'll get to see that again. But
way to go, Nike.
Yeah, Nike. I'm gonna get, but I'm happy with this. I like him. Some people are like, oh, he's mediocre. I'm like, no, I feel like he's better than mediocre. No. The man has had success. He knows how to work with personalities. And one of the things I think Doug said that was true is like all these like tweets like, hey, glad you got a job. Be checking for me when I'm looking for a job. But no, I mean, I like it. It's an improvement. I didn't need anything flashy. Yes, I would have liked Mark Jackson. But this works for me. I think he's going to be a good fit. I like that he is a former point guard, and I think this is great for Kobe White. I'd like to see them pick up some free agents, even though we know they're not going to really be crowding probably in the first lineup necessarily. But then again, depends on who you pull. You know what I mean? I don't think they're shy about making moves. But the thing about it, when you talk about the upper management piece, but they're smart about the moves they make. The moves, they're kind of like Rick Hahn. For once, Reinsdorf has got something right on both sides. For once, you feel like the two teams he owns, they're doing something right. It's like, and let them do their job. Like he let Rick Hahn do his job, and look where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Let them do their job, and you can see a turn maybe in a season. I expect them to make the playoffs next year. 8th seed, 7th seed, whatever. That's going to be the first step forward, is making the playoffs.
And the thing that I love is that he's defensive minded. Okay, he's defensive minded, but it hasn't stopped his teams from scoring on the offensive end as well. He's not like a Tibbs, right? We win 89-84, right? He's in the current NBA, field where we're in buck 10s, buck 20s. That's the way the game is played, up and down. But when necessary, we can tighten the screws defensively on you. We'll create steals and lead to our fast breaks. Block shots, these things. So I think with him, his ability in talking like what I mentioned earlier, his ability to work with young players is good. It's really, really good. Again, look at the Florida teams. But then when he gets with experienced players, veterans, that's where there could be a clash. So his movement could be very similar to. Well, no, I should say that he didn't have as much success as he wanted in OKC. Obviously, the title being the biggest thing.
But I kind of think about OKC. You had a lot going on.
But again, veterans and weird and strong personalities.
And they weren't seeing eye to eye enough where they broke up the band. You know what I mean? So to me, there was, when that distraction is happening off the court, it's happening on the court as well. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say I think his success, given the players he had, wasn't where it should be, not because of his ability, because of what was the general culture and the chemistry was poor with the players.
Let me wait 5 years and see. Because, if that could be the case, because these guys don't seem to have the egos that the Kevin Durant's and the Ivan's on it, that the Kevin Durant's and the James Harden and Russell Westbrooks have. The egos that they had were huge. And right now, I don't see that any of those egos here in the Bulls. And so, maybe they can grow together and be cool with, being a team as opposed to being, a superstar plus, the Supremes. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. They always were coachable, and that was the problem. And actually, when they started speaking up, it's because they had enough. When they're like, okay, so now I got to go. You're taking me back to the era of like lunch buckets and lunch boxes, Boyland. You want us to like
time clocks,
right? All the stuff that nobody does anymore. You want us to do it, and he was a morale killer. Seriously, to the point where they started vocalizing it. And that was like so out of character for them to start to speak up. But I believe that's the reason you saw a change happen. It's because they found their voice enough to not be fully disrespectful, but to let management know they'd had enough. Yeah. So I think he's going to be a good fit. I can't wait to hear them I haven't been following enough to say, because obviously it just came out, to kind of hear their feedback on it, like excited about this, looking forward to it. I haven't heard the buzz yet, so I'll be curious how the players respond to it. I mean, they're not going to say anything bad, but I guess if they don't say anything, I'll be like, oh, that's not a good sign.
No, but it's a brighter day now on the West Side. And who'd have thunk it? Jerry Reinsdorf now has two of the top GMs and top organizations in the city. After all those years of I wouldn't even say mediocrity. They weren't even mediocre at best. So,
well, remember we talked about. Remember we had that show. We went through all the top draft picks that have come through Chicago that were under the Gar Packs. That their era. We had a lot of talent come through Chicago for it never to amount to more than what it was. And real talk, no matter how you felt about Thibodeau, at least he was taking people to the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least we were making playoff appearances, and obviously some questionable things along, And Chicago, I wasn't as heartbroken about Derrick Rose as everybody else was because I was never like in love with Derrick Rose like everybody else was. But I felt he needed to leave Chicago because it wasn't good for him. Seriously, it was not good for him. Okay. It was toxic. I felt like, and it's unfortunate because I feel like, again, his talent got wasted here, so to speak, and so I felt like he needed to go someplace else. And to believe it or not, I think he kind of found himself when he left. I think he needed to not be under Chicago's thumb anymore. I mean, I think there was a certain amount of pressure to that, so to speak. And then, because I mean, when he was with, was it the Pistons he was with? Because he's had a couple teams.
Yeah.
New York Pistons. I kind of feel like that's when he really kind of found himself and got his courage and start playing. Like he didn't let his injury, the thought of being injured, take him off his square. And I think that's when he started playing some of his best basketball after leaving Chicago. So I do want to see him successful. I just don't think as it currently, there's not enough room for him and Zach LaVine on this roster. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Because Derrick still has enough to show up Zach. Let me be honest about that.
He does. I was ready to jump you.
Don't look. And I'm gonna tell you something.
I agree.
And he's Chicago's favorite son. Zach would take a back seat, and he's not gonna want that.
Right.
So you cannot bring Derrick back. Not that he's a chemistry killer, but it'd be too much for LaVine, so to speak. Not that Derrick would do anything except for just be Derrick. That's it. But that would be too much. This needs to be Zach's team, and you can't bring somebody in who's gonna create an issue.
Yeah, you see what it's done to Isaiah Thomas, because Chicago was his city, and some guy named Michael something or other came along and literally took it over, and is no longer in the city. So we can definitely we've seen this movie before, and how it's not going to be Derrick's team as much as Chicago loves Derrick. It's still not going to be his team. This is not 2010, 11, 12. This is 2020, and things change. So
I don't know. I don't know. No, Derrick Rose comes back and he's balling. Oh no, it's Derrick's team automatically by default. If he's balling,
I don't know. But do you want it to be Derrick's team because he might not be the most talented guy or to lead this team?
Oh, I don't want him back at all. Unless he's retiring, I don't want him back.
But to Maya's point, like if he were to come back and then all of a sudden, let's say for a string, Derrick is scoring 25 and 10. You'd say he has a run. You're going to hear MVP chants. You will hear MVP chants.
You can have 3 games in a row, and then there could be MVP. If he comes back, there'll be MVP chants just because he signed.
Right, but that's my point. That's my point. That'll get into the head of Zach LaVine.
Yeah, you can't do it. Shawn, these players today, they're soft. They're soft. They don't have that mental resolve, that toughness that you would, you talk about. And Derrick, Derrick won the toughest fellow, so let me not make it seem like he was rough, tough, and tumble, because he wasn't. Yeah. He got on the court, and that was his focus. That was his thing. Anything outside of that wasn't his thing. So yeah, it's just Zach is just not. I felt like Chris Dunn had more of a chip on his shoulder than Zach did. When Zach was out, believe it or not, Chris Dunn played at a high level because he had to, and then he face planted, and he hasn't been right since then.
No, that was the turning point.
I think he jarred something loose when that happened. Seriously. But he was balling, seriously. And then that happened. It was like he did. He played like with a chip on his shoulder. And then after that, he's never been the same. I don't know if there's a reason for that, but I do want this to be the year that Zach takes a step forward, though. I need you, Laurie. I think your regression wasn't his fault. They didn't let him do what he enjoyed. The way we talk about Jokic and all these other, we should be talking about Laurie that same way. You know what I'm saying? And yet,
thanks, good job.
Boylan. They just took him out of this. They didn't let people play their game. He wanted them to play the coach's game. That's not how this works.
Hey, Laurie, you're still at feet. Stand out here behind the 3-point line. Don't worry about banging people down low with your new body, all the meat and muscle you've added. Just stay out here and shoot threes.
And you enjoyed it, and you enjoyed doing it. So,
and the crazy thing is that, and what made me happy about it was the reaction of the players around the league. To a guy not going necessarily to their teams or at all to their teams, but they were happy for him. And that's, like you said, players coach. Isn't that where we're going towards, being a players a friendly organization? to draw in free agents. I think Billy Donovan takes us to another level just because of who he is as a person, as a coach. And I mean, honestly, like look what he did last year with OKC. He had an old Chris Paul and a bunch of kids. You know what I mean? And look what they did. They took the Rockets to the brink.
No, you're right. I mean, it's like it's a solid hire. I don't have any issue with it. It's an upgrade. It's an improvement. And I feel like the conversation we're not going to have is, oh, but he needs this to win. No, I feel like everybody feels like you have pieces to win right now. I'm not saying win a title per se. And you know what's interesting? Because if you dial this back and this is in place when Kevin Durant was in free agency, who knows if he would have entertained coming to Chicago? Who knows? Maybe not.
Doug talked about it. 2021. There's a lot of free agents that he talked about Giannis. He talked about AD.
Well, I'm pretty sure once out of Milwaukee.
Yeah, and you know what? Come on down 90 miles. You ain't going from Cuba to Florida. Just come down 90.
Yeah, it's we'll see. But you know what? Just cook with what you got this first year. Let's see where it goes. And then from there, they're going to pick up some free agents just because. But I don't want anything that's going to make a massive shift. You know what I mean? Unless it's that big of a name, you know what I'm saying? It makes sense.
Right.
Then that following year, because my thing is this. People may cringe when I say this. I don't feel that Zach LaVine isn't movable for the right piece. I don't feel like that.
Yeah, I mean,
I said like the right piece.
Right, the right piece. But I like who Zach is trying to become. And I think Zach,
I need him to be it.
I think Zach, yeah, right. But I think minus Jim Boylan now, and you got a guy like a Billy Donovan who like we said, has a good relationship with his players. I mean, I think that will benefit Zach, and I think Zach will be able to become his own super. Now, I don't know if he's going to be a superstar, but he'll be his own. He'll be his own player on his own team, and he'll get help from his coach. Because he wasn't getting help from his head coach. Let's be real.
No, he wasn't. You're right. He wasn't. So that's why I'm saying let's see how this kind of pans out, how they work together, where it goes, and then go from there. Because obviously he's going to work to everyone's strengths. He's not going to be asking them to do things that don't make sense. And like you said, think about what he did with Chris Paul and everybody else. And he had Steven Adams was there too. But think about what he did with not having a whole lot and how much they accomplished by playing to everyone's strength and getting the most from everybody, and without pushing the envelope to a point where it's too much. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting. So you're right. I mean, I don't think that Zach really has had that type of coach that's allowed him to grow, so to speak.
Right. And he's at a point. He's at a point that I see, especially last year, because Zach would go and turn it on. He'd all of a sudden, boom, Zach's hitting threes, from every part of the gym. Zach's going. He's taking it to the hole. There was the one thing that Zach and I don't want to be that guy, but I will be for because I've seen it. Zach was not getting any type of help when he went to the hole. If Zach was up in the air trying to throw it down and he got tackled, he was not getting a foul call. It was pretty bad in my opinion. But I think like I said, you get Zach comfortable, you get him trusting. The guy will follow, and he will follow the leadership because the leadership will be helpful to him. It'll be catering to him. Like that's what I think.
And it'll be interesting because the whole All-Star game thing really didn't sit well with him. How that kind of panned out. I think he comes into this season playing with a chip on his shoulder. Because he felt like, wow, I'm. But here's again. Let's hope this is going to be a shift in Chicago regaining kind of, and like I said, we had become like the bottom of, at one point we went from being at the top of the mountain to being such an irrelevant franchise.
Farthest fall from grace, like the farthest fall from grace, I want to say.
Yes. So let's hope that this is that shift we're going to see back to people talking about the Bulls. And, it was kind of like you knew the White Sox had struck gold when people nationally started talking about you. Even here. Oh, you're from Chicago. Oh, are you a White Sox fan? Well, yes, I am. Before your conversation would be, are you a Cubs fan? What? Now it's like the White Sox are in the national conversation. When the Bulls get back into that national conversation, that'll be a good thing. They're playing for a historic franchise, but at the same time, it's been relegated to just really not being a good one because of poor leadership. So
the past 20 years is just, like I said, the furthest fall from grace that I've seen in this. Maybe you guys have seen it worse, but watching the Bulls franchise that was it was at the top of the world. I mean, a worldwide brand.
Yes, it was
with a player that was the best player best player ever. I mean, I'm going to say I know that's to be true, but then you just continue to have this horrible decision making for the next 20 years.
And everyone thought Derrick Rose. People thought that Derrick Rose was going to right the ship, and it felt like it could have, happened. And then it just took a turn for the worse, and it never came back from that. He couldn't stay healthy, which was frustrating for him. So it'll be interesting. And you're right. And let's be honest, people wear Bulls stuff not because they really like the Bulls. They wear it because of Michael Jordan. At the end of the day, he built that franchise up to what its prominence, and the fact that anybody will still wear anything, it's because of Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan just keeps doing stuff even in retirement, winning Emmys and stuff. I'm like, dude, he's the GOAT on so many levels. It's ridiculous.
NASCAR team?
I mean, well, you know what? And actually, I told somebody, I remember when Michael Jordan, he had a racing, he's been in racing for a while because Walter Payton was into racing before he had a racing team. So Michael Jordan's actually been into that for a while. He's not just jumping in and just doing random stuff. No, we're not bringing back Dennis Rodman. People are silly. But I want to see a shift. And I feel like this just might be Chicago's kind of time. We didn't think the White Sox were going to turn this quickly around the corner. And look what happened. So let's just hope they make that, because you see some similarities in regards to having the talent. It's young. So now you're like, what you needed, and we still say this about, I still don't feel that Renteria is that guy.
Let me say that.
But I have to leave the door open for what he's done. I can't, you know what I'm saying? I can't disrespect what he's done. Just don't fully convinced in some of his decision-making that he's the guy.
Can I ask you guys this? And Frank Thomas said it the other day. Why is Luis Robert deep down in the lineup, unprotected? Why is he down there? He's 0 for 22 in his last 22 at-bats. 0 for 22. And it's not, and they're not good at put him in the top of the lineup where they have to pitch to him because you have a murderer's row right behind him. He's not protecting this kid, and we've seen what he could do at the top of the lineup. I don't think he goes into this bad of a slump if you keep him right where he's at.
If you put him at 5, I think he's still fine because you still have people behind him.
Mm-hmm.
You probably have TA7 number 1, Yomo number 2, Breu number 3, Eloy number 4. Put him in number 5. You have Yasmani at number 6. There's somebody behind him, but he's got to move up. He's got to get protected because otherwise they're just going to continue to throw. And thank you, Angel Hernandez, for exacerbating that whole nonsense with those stupid calls yesterday. But you put him up there, because if you don't give him protection, like Frank said, they're not going to give him one good pitch. It's just going to be everything's going to be outside the zone and tail out. Fastballs are going to be on the corners. Breaking pitches are going to start on the corners and tail out. And this guy's going to keep swinging and swinging and swinging. And you can tell he's got that look on. He's got the deer in the headlights look now, and that's so frustrating to see from the first month of the season when he's knocking everything out of the park. And he's also got to take accountability as well. Here's where Jose Abreu comes in. He's got to say, hey, listen, the first pitch, sit on one pitch. Sit on a fastball. Go first ball fastball, okay? Right. Until you see that because once you hit a homer or two on a first ball fastball or get a base hit, well, then now they're coming breaking pitches, so then now you can sit on a breaking pitch. So he needs help from – and you would think people like Yoel Moncada and Abreu, both not just being Cuban, because that's a huge factor, but also having gone through this thing, especially Yoel Moncada – this last season and a half ago, that could help him shorten that learning curve. Because I'll tell you what, if he can come out of this slump in the last 4 or 5 games and go into the playoffs on a high note, that's a dangerous thing for. Again, I don't care who we're playing, And who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody. Oh, I was at Output, a new place I tried out, and they were saying, well, the Sox got to go to the Yankees, the Sox got to go to this, Sox got to go to that. I said, hold on. I said, they got to come through us. I'm like, he said, well, they've only played the teams in the Central. I said, just like the East has only played teams in the East. I said, you're not going to, regardless of who you played, you're not going to see a lineup like this lineup anywhere else unless you're the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Royals, the Twins, the Indians. Unless you're those teams, you will not have seen this type of lineup Okay, and if you're not used to this type of lineup, and it's one right after the other. You remember Ivan in 2016? It was one right after the other. It was even Addison Russell, but you had Brian, you had Contreras, you had Schwarber, you had Schwarber at the end, Rizzo, Baez, all these guys. You're like, dude, when the hell does this stop?
But you know what though? It's not the hitting that I'm worried about. It's the pitching.
No, I agree.
They're all kind of slumping, which I mean, it could be a little fatigue built in this to a degree. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. Go.
Well, Dane just had one bad outing this last time. We were all excited and ready to put him in the number 3 slot, and then
Cease and Dunning.
But actually, here's the issue I didn't take with. He gave up those 4 runs, and then he evened it out. So, but my thing is that don't pull him with. You got to let him pitch through that. He's got to get that experience. So I was like, I was pissed. I'm like, babe, but I didn't watch the game that day, so I think he was missing me. So I was like, I'll be there next time. No worries. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. He's like, where's Maya? I don't see her watching. But I'm like, but I like to see he righted the ship. I'm like, okay, there you go. It's because Ricky likes to pull people. I'm like, no. They gotta pitch through this stuff now. Yeah. Stop saying their egos aren't that fragile. You don't have to walk away with a win. His mentality like that bothers me. More concerned about like losing can build character just like winning. And I think he doesn't tend to get that. So
here's your guy, Maya, and I know you're not going to like this, but he's in his last 3 starts. Your guy is, Ray Lopez. In September 12th, 5 innings, 3 hits, no runs. His next start, September 17th, 5 1/3, 4 hits, 3 runs. And then last night, 5 hits, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run. So he's pitching much better.
Look, we need him to pitch better. I told you, we need him to pitch better because we're going to need him, whether it's in rotation or whether it's bullpen. He's going to be needed. So yes, and I need him to pitch better so we can get rid of him next year. So people could be like, Ray Lopez, yeah, deal him because he's going to be dealt. So I need him to pitch well because I need you to have a body of work that somebody actually thinks is worth taking, kind of like Quintana. Mm-hmm. Just saying. So we need him to pitch good. As a matter of fact, everybody needs to pitch better. But it might be slumping right now. So I'm okay with that.
But the bullpen's looking good, Maya, though.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
When they brought up the rookie, their first round draft pick, oh my God. He said 100 quite a few times. He's looking good. And his 3 scoreless innings, you're not asking him to, go give me 6 innings, give me an inning, a scoreless inning here, a scoreless inning there, and he looks comfortable.
He does.
He looks comfortable. Jason Fry's back.
Yes.
Matt Foster has to shore some things up, but we know Carlos Rodon will probably be back. These guys, this bullpen.
I'm going to tell you something though. If the Cubs are interested, you can have Cishek back.
No. Thank Joe for burning that arm out.
Hey, so here you see the Sox are under 500 against winning teams, though. Has to raise a red flag. Only first place team with a losing record against winning teams, and it does. But again, we're and if it is 500, just don't let that fool you because right now we're 500 with Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Okay, there aren't many other teams in Cleveland. I don't know what the record is against Cleveland. And then we still got to finish it with the Cubs series. So if we take 2 out of 3 against the Cubs or sweep the Cubs, well, guess what? Then we're back over 500 against them. So throwing out under 500, that could be, it's nice and it's scary. But if you're a game under 500, you're still under 500. So it's not too worrisome to me about it. I'm worried about people who haven't seen the Sox, but they should be worried. Teams that haven't seen the Sox, they should be worried about this lineup when they come in because with Giolito and Keuchel and whoever that number 3 is, it could be a tag team of two different pitchers. Hey, that's a formidable foe. Maybe not World Series, but it could get there with as crazy as 2020 has been. It could get us there.
Oh, did the Cubs? Did they? Since we're talking so much Cubs right now, Armando, did they clinch it?
Yep.
Okay.
What the hell is that?
I don't know.
Celebrate.
Cool again.
Thank you. You knew what it was.
I did too. When I was
that took a little bit of time for that to happen, but okay.
Hey, listen, guys, 3 hours has come and gone. Unbelievable. Hey, I want to thank my guest, our guest Joseph Phillips, for calling in. Jason Palmer, because man, he was fired up. Remember, man? He's like, I got to come on tomorrow. Oh man, he was.
I saw that text. I was like, oh, okay.
Man of the month. I was like, all right, Jason, okay. Shout out to Russell Baxter from PFG Vibe for calling in, and Doug Schwam for calling in as well for Sports Mockery. I want to thank my technical producer, Elliot, another Puerto Rican guy, the other Puerto Rican on our crew, Elliot Baez. I want to thank our social media guy himself, Clarence Council III, who's keeping us up with the Joneses. And then, even though he's on screen right now, we want to say shout out to our Puerto Rican Swiss Army Knife, the Wiz, the man behind the curtain, Ivan Vargas. So we had a great show. It was awesome. All you guys made it awesome. Great to have Maya chiming in from the left coast over there. Well, not technically, but
this is great. I can actually still go like nap 2 hours because it's still morning here.
It is only 10 o'clock over there.
So I can go back and get the rest of my sleep that I gave up to be here. Yeah.
Well, party until you're in Vegas. So what the hell? Why even bothering sleeping?
Right. It's 24/7. So you're right.
Why aren't you going down to the pool to nap?
Yeah, no.
You should have been like, who says I'm not?
Yeah. I need to be able to like, drill, I'm comfortable when I go to the pool. I laugh at some of these people. I was like, Jesus, I'm getting old. I'm like, I find this to be Vegas alone is just good for watching people.
It is people watching.
Oh my God.
It is awesome. You could, yeah. I've been there. Actually, you know what? I told him to holler at you. Eddie's out in Vegas right now.
Is it really?
His birthday was yesterday. Yeah, Eddie G.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so holler at him. So
I'm about to say, hey, Eddie, where you at? Let's have a birthday drink. Come on. All right.
Hey, before we go, I haven't put that pick up. I want to say another sad thing, man. No, not that one. We lost for all you wrestling fans, and I was a huge wrestling fan growing up. The Animal, Joe Laurinaitis. He's a guy in the front in the green makeup, face paint. He passed away yesterday.
60.
He was 60 years old. He was part of the most devastating tag team. Road Warrior Hawk is a guy behind him. He, if you watch this on video, he died some years ago. Joe Laurinaitis, he's the father of James Laurinaitis, who went to Ohio State and played with the Rams, the linebacker for a while. But it's just a sad day when I saw that. And the Road Warriors are my favorite tag team of all time. I love them, from Chicago, and it was it was tough to hear that he passed away because they would just come in. I love when they're in the studio and their matches were literally 30 seconds. They come in, beat the hell out of somebody, power slam them, pin them 1, 2, 3, and go give interviews and yell at their future opponents. It was just great. And if you grew up in that era before they went to the WWE, this was just the most dominating tag team around. And no, there's never been a tag team. There wasn't a tag team like that before them, and there definitely hasn't. I don't think will ever be a tag team like them after. So now they're both back, power bombing and slamming people up in heaven. So it's just it was a tough day, him and Gail Sayers. So it was a rough one. You know what? I think I'm gonna go have a drink tonight just because. So.
There you go.
Two, one for each.
There you go. One for each. Yes.
All right. So for my Puerto Rican Swiss Army Knife himself, Ivan Vargas.
Like I said, man, just bring them back. Bring them back. Bring them back.
Let it go, Papa. Let it go. And and coming live from Vegas, Little Savage herself, Maya.
Viva Las Vegas.
That's perfect. All right, well, guys, we're out of here. We're gonna take a 45-hour break, and we'll be back on Friday, 9 a.m. to noon Central Standard Time. Until then, we got a couple words for you. Download the app. Download the app. Download the app. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. We out.